Hello guys, welcome to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, we will start the story of what if Naruto fell in love with Android 18 Part 1. It feels good to be home. Murray, the new Namekian Grand Elder, thought as he and his people appeared on New Namek, having been teleported here from Earth, thanks to Porunga. Granted, it wasn't their original home, but looking around, Murray could see everyone was happy at seeing how similar it was to the original Namek. And now they could begin rebuilding their villages and homes to truly make New Namek their home. And then we can once again divide up and safeguard the Dragon Balls. Murray thought, looking at the now stone Dragon Balls, lying dormant after all 3 wishes were used. Pushing those thoughts aside, for the moment, Murray turned to address his people, so they could begin deciding where to set up the new villages. Though unknown to Murray and the rest of the Namekians, they had taken some hitchhikers along with them to their planet. Mini capsule bots, no bigger than flies, attached themselves to the Namekians' clothing, having hidden themselves in spots where they wouldn't be spotted. What all the bots had in common was a logo painted them on. A red ribbon with 2 R's inside it. Time skip 1 year. A year has passed since the Namekians had arrived on New Namek, and they have made the most of their time. They have already succeeded in setting up outposts for where the villages will be built several buildings, and begun growing crops. Now though, the Dragon Balls were once again active, meaning it was time to divide them amongst the tribes. This had all the Namekians gathered together, so they could decide which tribes would receive which Dragon Ball. Unfortunately, due to one of the tribes being wiped out by Vegeta, and thus weren't revived with the rest of the Namekians, they had to decide which tribe would look after 2 Dragon Balls. However, before the elders could begin discussing this, the capsule bots suddenly activated and flew off the Namekians. What are those capsules? Murray said, frowning, recognizing the devices from their time on Earth, but was confused as to why they were here. Though their confusion quickly turned to fear and horror when the capsules activated and released their contents. That being massive white and black androids, with glowing lights in the black voids of their chests, with the Red Ribbon Army logo on them. Immediately, the Namekian fighters jumped in front of the elders ready for a fight, only for the androids to quickly subdue them and the elders. The fighters tried struggling against the androids, only to be met with painful shocks shooting through their bodies. Knowing they couldn't escape, the elders and fighters could only watch helplessly as more androids arrived, with the rest of the Namekians. Once all the Namekians were gathered together and restrained, one of the androids moved in front of them as his eye glowed blue, before releasing a hologram of an elderly man. The man had slightly tanned skin, blue eyes, a large bushy white mustache, and long hair. He also has a Red Ribbon Army logo located on the hat. His clothing is black, with orange sections at the upper arms, and light yellow sleeves at the lower arms. His pants are dark brown, and his shoes are black and white. Who are you? Murray questioned, angry that once again, his people were being held captive and threatened by a madman. My name is Dr. Jiro, a scientist of the once illustrious. Why are you here? What purpose could you have to attack us? Murray said, knowing it involved the Dragon Balls by the way Jiro was looking at them. I suppose I could tell you, since it won't really matter in a few moments, anyway. You see, as I said, I was a scientist of the Red Ribbon Army, working to create powerful androids, all with the goal of collecting the Dragon Balls on Earth, and use them to conquer the world. Unfortunately, the Red Ribbon Army was destroyed many years ago by someone you all are quite familiar with, the Saiyan, Son Goku. He attacked the Red Ribbon Army, killing everyone, including my son. Jiro shouted, with his rage spiking at the mention of the man who murdered his son, with the Mechlord shocking the Namekians as a result of the doctor's anger. Taking a moment to regain his calm composure, Jiro addressed the Namekians again. After that, I spent years plotting my revenge against Son Goku, wanting to have him watch as I crush everything he cares for, before killing him. For years, I have studied him and his allies, collecting DNA samples from them all to create the ultimate androids, that would succeed in ending him, once and for all. And I did, by creating 2 such androids, with one of them being made from the DNA of the Saiyans, Raditz, Vegeta, Nappa, Goku himself, and his own son, Gohan. Programmed with the knowledge of all their attacks and fighting styles, a being born with a single purpose, to fight. One of my ultimate androids will soon be complete, or at least he will be, once I use the Dragon Balls. Then with my wishes granted, I will begin adding the mechanical parts. Jiro explained, much to the Namekians' horror at the thought of such a creature being created, even worse with whatever wish Jiro will make. You're insane, if you'd ever think we'd help you, or betray our friends on Earth, one of the warriors shouted, only to grunt in pain, when the Mechlord tightened its grip. Funny, I don't remember saying I needed your help. Jiro retorted, before his holographic body walked over to the Dragon Balls. Then to the Namekians' growing shock and horror, Jiro raised his hands and spoke in perfect Namekian. Given Jiro had more than enough time on Earth to study their language, as well as through his capsule drones on New Namek, it was easy for him to learn to speak the Namekian language. After Jiro had recited the password, the Dragon Balls glowed brightly, before Porunga emerged from them. With the dragon's appearance, Jiro nodded to his Mechlords, causing the androids to once again shock the Namekians, this time hard enough to knock them all unconscious. With that done, Jiro looked up at Porunga. Dragon, my 3 wishes are these. I wish for Android 22 to become immortal, for his immortality to never able to be taken away, and the memories of everyone, besides myself, to forget this ever happened. Jiro commanded, with Purunga's eyes glowing as he granted all 3 wishes. Your wishes have been granted, Purunga stated, before vanishing, while the Dragon Balls turned to stone once again. Nodding in satisfaction, Jiro's holographic body vanished, while the Mechalords released the unconscious Namekians. Their job completed, the androids flew up into space, before self-destructing, ensuring no evidence of them or their master being on New Namek would ever be found, aside from the knocked-out Namekians, of course. Timeskip page 767. Damn it all, Jiro thought as he ran into his lab and sealed the door. He didn't expect his fighters to have gotten that strong from when Frieza arrived 3 years ago. Even worse, with that strange golden form Goku and Vegeta had, they have surpassed any level of power Jiro could have conceived, given how quickly Android 19 was destroyed. He even lost his right hand, as well. Not wanting to risk engaging Vegeta in that state, Jiro had chosen to flee to his lab, where he could release Androids 17 and 18. Those fools may have become stronger than I anticipated, but I have already made the proper improvements to 17 and 18, strong enough to handle the so-called Super Saiyan form that Goku and Vegeta have achieved. Jiro thought, having initially assumed that Super Saiyan form he overheard Goku's friends talk about, before the said Saiyan returned to Earth, as a higher power level that Goku achieved with his Kaioken, rather than a new form. He would have chosen to use Android 22, but Jiro hasn't gotten around to programming him to obey his orders yet, so he's using 17 and 18 instead. Going over to the console, Jiro opened the pods containing the twin androids. Android 17 is a fair-skinned young man, with a similar appearance to his fraternal twin sister. He is average in height, though slightly taller than his sibling, with a slim frame and lean build. He has straight shoulder-length black hair that parts above his forehead, thin eyebrows, and narrow blue eyes. Like most of Jiro's androids, 17 had gold hoop earrings in each ear. He also wore an orange bandana around his neck, over a short-sleeved black shirt with the Red Ribbon Army's logo on the left of his chest, which had a long-sleeve white shirt underneath it, along with a belt to hold up his medium blue jeans, which have a tier just above the knee of the left leg, and blue-white sneakers with green socks under them. Android 18 is a slender, curvy and beautiful woman of above-average height and fair complexion. She has shoulder-length blonde hair that parts over her left temple, which she generally keeps tucked behind her ear. Like her brother, she also possessed gold hoop earrings. She was wearing a blue denim vest and skirt, with the Red Ribbon logo on the back of the vest, with dark blue tights, a brown belt, brown boots, and a black shirt that has white and black striped long sleeves. Oh wow, you finally let us out, Doc. About time. 17 said, rolling his shoulders, pleased at finally being let out of the pod. And it looks like he wants us to clean up another mess. 18 stated, looking at the door where she could hear those fighters trying to break in. Oh, be quiet, both of you. I let you out to kill those fools, before they can kill us, like they did with Android 19. Now do it, Jiro ordered. Wait, hang on. Did you actually use that fat clown, the one with the absorption unit, to fight them? I thought that was a joke, 17 said. Amused that Jiro actually used that thing. Well, clearly it was. It's dead now. Not that surprising, given it didn't have infinite energy units, like us, said 18, knowing they were superior to 19, given they didn't need to absorb energy, or worry about running out. Their attention then turned to the door, where they could hear these fighters arguing. And I'm about to put my hand 200 miles upside your head. That doesn't make any sense. Those idiots do realize we can hear them, right? 18 said, knowing they'd be screwed if she or her brother just blasted them right now. Just hurry up and kill them all already, or else you're going back in the pods, Jiro threatened as he pulled out his remote shutdown switch. Oh, you mean this remote? 17 said, quickly swiping the remote from Jiro before crushing it, much to Jiro's worry and fear, as now he had no way of controlling them. Sorry, old man, but we aren't going back in those pods ever again, 18 stated while smirking. Just then, the door was blasted open, allowing Vegeta, Trunks, Krillin, Piccolo and Tien to enter the lab. Alright, so where are the real androids? Vegeta demanded. That's them, Trunks said, pointing at 17 and 18, his nerves rising at seeing the monsters that destroyed his future. Well, I'm completely underwhelmed. You upgraded us to deal with these idiots, 17 asked, while Trunks was horrified to hear that the androids had been upgraded. And you need to get rid of them, Jiro shouted, annoyed that they just wouldn't kill these fighters already. Yeah, we'll get to it. But how about first you tell us about these guys, 16 and 22, 18 said with a raised brow, given she didn't see 21 anywhere. What more androids? Trunks shouted, now officially terrified that not only were 17 and 18 upgraded, but now there were 2 more androids he's never seen before. What else could go wrong? Wow, Doc, did all your time cooped up in the lab make you forget how to count? Here, I'll help. It goes 21, and then 22, you understand? 17 mocked, much to Jiro's anger at the insult to his intelligence. Of course I know that, but I hit a roadblock in perfecting Android 21, and had to scrap her, for now anyway. Jiro said, while muttering the last part as he intended to complete 21 when he could. Huh. And what exactly makes them so special? 18 asked, curious as what was different about androids 21 and 22. Androids 21 and 22 are the apex of my brilliance, the first in the generation of super androids. Being infinite energy androids and possessing energy absorption units, they will be unstoppable. Jiro said, pleased at having created the ultimate androids. Of course, there was also Cell, but he wasn't going to mention that one yet, given it was nowhere near completion. Ho, now we definitely gotta release the big guy, 17 said, wanting to meet 22 himself, and see how strong he was. Definitely, I'm also curious to see what 16 is capable of as well. 18 stated with a to Jiro's horror. No, don't. Android 16 is highly unstable and can never be released without going nuclear, and I haven't finished programming Android 22, Jiro said, not wanting Android 16, which he created in the likeness of his son, to fight and risk being destroyed. While Android 22 hasn't been programmed to be loyal to Jiro, nor with the desire to kill Goku, yet. Ah, that's funny, that you think you can stop us. 18 retorted, as she moved to open the pods. I said no, you insubordinate cricket, Jiro screamed, when 17 suddenly appeared and stabbed his hand through Jiro's chest, before delivering a kick to his head, knocking it clean off his shoulders. You locked us in those pods for years, letting us out to clean up your mess, and now you think you can tell us what to do? I don't think so, you old bastard, 17 shouted, before jumping up and slamming his foot down on Jiro's head, finally killing the man that ruined his and his sister's lives. Well, with the out of the way, let's wake up our new friends. 18 said, with 17 nodding in agreement. Unfortunately, before they could open the pods, Trunks screamed in rage as he transformed into a Super Saiyan and unleashed a powerful Kai Blast. He refused to let the androids that destroyed his world unleash even more monsters like them. The resulting blast ended up destroying the entire laboratory, along with most of the mountain. Thank goodness, they're gone. Trunks said, relieved that he managed to destroy all 4 androids. Yes, congratulations, you fool. You managed to waste your energy on an attack that did nothing. Vegeta stated as the smoke cleared, revealing 17 and 18 completely intact, while carrying 16 and 22's pods. Well, that was fun. 17 said while putting 16's pod down. Whatever, let's hurry up and open these things, before that brat decides to try again. 18 said, though knowing it wouldn't do anything to them, but it was still annoying. Nodding, the twins ripped open the pods, allowing the androids inside to wake up. The first one, Android 16, was a literal giant, being nearly double the height of 17 and 18. He has icy blue eyes, a red orange mohawk, and gold hoop earrings. His clothing consists of a dark undersuit, with a lime green vest, green boots, and green bracers. A small red ribbon army logo is sewn to the left side of his vest. Though it was Android 22 that shocked everyone, for the simple fact that he had the telltale monkey tail that all Saiyans have. Saiyan, Trunks shouted, not believing Jiro somehow managed to get his hands on a living Saiyan to turn into an android. 22 had jet black wild spiky hair that fell down to his shoulders, pale skin, dark black eyes, 3 jagged whisker marks on each cheek, and as everyone could tell, a Saiyan tail wrapped around his waist. He was wearing Frieze of Forces style armor, which consisted of black boots with white borders and red stripped toes, a red form-fitting bodysuit, and black armbands with white ridges, black chest armor with a red midsection and shoulder pads, with the red ribbon army logo on the right pectoral of the armor. Seeing the Saiyan android, 17 whistled in amazement. Wow, I'm actually impressed, Jiro actually managed to get a Saiyan to take down Goku. 17 stated. Yeah, I'm surprised he had such a good idea. 18 added. Both of them had been uploaded with Jiro's knowledge of the Saiyans, including their natural battle prowess. So it was impressive the Mad Doctor had such a good idea as turning a Saiyan into an android. Given it'd make more sense for a Saiyan to take down a Saiyan. And it's good to know the Doctor was able to create such a handsome android as well. 18 said, walking up to 22 and looking him over with a pleased smirk before giving him a peck on the cheek. This action managed to get a reaction from 22, who blinked and looked at 18 in confusion. What was that? 22 questioned, making 17 and 18 give him bewildered expressions. It was a kiss. You do know what a kiss is, right? 22, 18 asked, only for 22 to shake his head. I do not know what this kiss is. Dr. Jiro only implanted information he deemed suitable for me, such as various fighting styles, techniques, and how to manipulate Kai. Any information regarding the outside world was only implanted if Dr. Jiro considered it necessary. 22 explained, since Jiro had created him to be a weapon, and didn't feel that such acts of affection were necessary for a weapon to understand. We can to wish that I killed the bastard slower now. 17 commented, feeling sorry for 22, the same being said for 18, feeling they could emphasize with the Saiyan android, given Jiro captured them and tried turning them into weapons as well. In fact, the twins would say that 22 had it worse than them, since they at least got to experience the outside world and all it had to offer, before they were turned into androids. Well, stick with us, 22, and we'll show you just what this world has to offer. What about you, 16? You want to join us? 18 asked, looking at the giant android, who simply kept staring forward. I'm gonna assume you're more the strong silent type, big guy. What exactly did Jiro build you for anyway? 17 asked, wondering what reason 16 was built. I was built to murder Son Goku, stated 16, speaking for the first time. I just keep getting more good reasons for killing him, 17 said, sweat dropping at Jiro's one-track mind of killing Goku. You killed Son Goku? 16 asked, while turning to look at 17. No, he killed Dr. Jiro, answered 18. Oh, may we go and murder Son Goku? 16 asked. 17 and 18 traded looks, before 18 looked at 22. What about you, 22? Want to go kill Goku? Questioned 18. Son Goku is a Saiyan, a powerful one. Okay, let's hunt down Son Goku, 22 said, with his Saiyan blood eager for the challenge. Ugh, fine. Let's go find Goku, maybe we can see some sights along the way, 17 said, flying into the air, with 16, 18 and 22 flying after him. Oh, thank goodness, they're gone, Krillin said, sighing in relief once the androids were out of sight. Yeah, and they're going after Goku, you idiot, Piccolo shouted. If they want to get to Kakarot, they'll go through me first, Vegeta stated, refusing to let Goku be killed by those tin cans. Only he had the right to defeat Goku, and he'll prove it by destroying those androids. Starting with that scene. Later. Why are we stopping? 18 asked, as they flew down to a cliffside road at 17's suggestion. I want to steal a car, 17 answered, with 18 pausing and giving her brother an annoyed look. You do realize we can fly, right? 18 asked, annoyed that they stopped for such a pointless reason. True. But with the car, we'll get a closer look at our surroundings, and a better chance to show our new naive friend the world, rather than up in the air, 17 explained, while motioning to 22, who was currently taking in his surroundings with a fascinated expression. Fair point, 18 conceded, less annoyed now that she heard her brother's reasoning, and agreed that it'd be a good way to let 22 see the world. Will a car assist us in murdering Son Goku? 16 asked. I don't know, we guess you could hit him pretty hard with it after we're done using it, 17 replied as he looked at 16 with a sweat drop. Then I too wish to get a car, 16 stated, glad that they'll get a new method of killing Goku. Just then Vegeta arrived and landed in front of the 4 androids. Well, I finally found you worthless tin cans, Vegeta said, as he smirked at the 4 androids. Oh hey Vegeta. Why'd you want? 17 asked boredly. Well, for starters, to reduce you weaklings to scrap metal. But first, I'm gonna beat that low class into the ground, Vegeta said while facing 22, believing it would be an easy fight to win as unlike the Saiyan android, he was a Super Saiyan. Besides, 22 couldn't even be considered a Saiyan anymore as far as Vegeta was concerned, given he was turned into an android by Jiro. You want to fight me, Vegeta? Alright, I could use the workout, 22 said smirking, excited at the chance of fighting a strong opponent like Vegeta, especially with how long he was in stasis. Not wasting another second, 22 charged Vegeta and sent kick towards his chest, which Vegeta blocked with his arms. Grabbing 22's legs, Vegeta pulled him close and slammed his elbow into the android's chest, before sending a punch to his face, launching the android into the cliffside. Righting himself, 22 placed his feet against the cliff, before kicking off at a higher speed towards the Saiyan Prince. Tackling Vegeta, with 22 wrapped his arms around the other Saiyan, before proceeding to smash him through numerous trees and rocks. Finally, 22 slammed Vegeta into the ground and went to smash his fist into his face, only for Vegeta to flip out of the way. Big Bang attack, Vegeta shouted, firing the energy ball at 22. To which, 22 responded to the attack by unleashing a Kai Blast that caused the energy ball to explode before it could reach him. Sure, he could have used his energy absorption function to absorb the attack, but 22 wanted things to be interesting. Especially since this was his first real fight, outside of the simulations Jiro that had implanted into his mind while he was in stasis. Then before Vegeta could react, 22 flew through the explosion and slammed his fist into the Saiyan Prince's face, before raising his knee into Vegeta's chest, making him double over. 22 then grabbed Vegeta by the back of his head, and slamming it into the ground, dazing him further. Grabbing Vegeta by his leg, 22 spun around, before throwing Vegeta back to where 16, 17, and 18 were. Flying after Vegeta, 22 continued his assault by punching and kicking Vegeta, before finally creating a Kai Blast in his hand, and firing it at Vegeta at point-blank range. This results in Vegeta crashing through the cliffside, groaning in pain at the assault. Wow, that ended faster than I thought it would, 18 commented, while looking at the hole that Vegeta's crash made. Father Trunks shouted, as he and the other fighters soon arrived. Hey Vegeta, are you alright in there? Do you need a senzu bean? Krillin asked. Off, boldly Vegeta shouted while stepping out of the hole and brushing off some debris. Alright Vegeta, you probably won't like it, but we'll need to work together to beat this guy, Piccolo said with Vegeta grunting angrily at the idea of anyone helping him. Do what you want, Namekian, but just stay out of my way, Vegeta retorted, before he charged 22 to re-engage him. 22 smirked as he fought Vegeta again, knocking the prince back to the ground, before ducking under a slash from Trunks' sword, catching the half-Saiyan in a headlock, and began punching him repeatedly in the chest. Hey, 22, you want some help? 18 asked as seeing these fighters ganging up on him. No, stay out of this, 22 shouted, refusing to let anyone interfere in his fight, wanting to see just where he stood against multiple opponents. Trading looks, 17 and 18 shrugged, deciding to let their new friend have his fun. Besides, it's actually more fun for them to simply watch them get their asses kicked. Seeing they weren't going to interfere, 22 quickly moved Trunks in front of him as a shield for Tien's kick. Using the trickle of surprise, 22 shoved Trunks into him, before knocking them down with an axe kick. 22 then stiffened when he felt someone grab his tail. Looking behind, he saw it was Krillin, who managed to sneak up behind him. Guys, I got his tail, now's your chance to attack, Krillin cried, when 22 suddenly backhanded him, sending the former monk flying away. Nice try, but Dr. Jiro removed that weakness. I was designed to be one of his ultimate androids, meaning I have all the strengths of a Saiyan, but none of the weaknesses. 22 said, smirking, as he saw these fighters surrounding him, but not making any attempts to attack. Deciding to humor them, 22 spread his arms, leaving himself open. Tell you what, free shot. Go ahead, hit me with your strongest attacks, go on, I'll wait. 22 said, as he looked at his fighters with a smirk. How do we know you won't simply absorb our attacks to make yourself stronger? Piccolo said, remembering that Jiro said that he had given 22 the ability to absorb energy, on top of him being an infinite energy model. Please, where would the fun be in that? 22 asked, while smirking at the Namekian. Ah, you want my strongest, then take a Gallic gunfire, Vegeta shouted, firing his signature attack at 22, with the others following suit, not wanting to waste their chance. Special beam cannon. Burning attack. Kamehameha. Kakoho. The 5 attacks collided against 22, who made no effort to dodge, block or absorb the attacks, with his fighters pouring all their power into the attacks, wanting to ensure 22 really died. Finally, they cut off their attacks, panting from the energy they used. Strong enough for you, Vegeta said, smirking, only to start laughing madly when he saw the state 22 was in when the smoke cleared. Both of his arms were vaporized, the entire right side of his chest was blasted off, and most of his head was missing as well. This made these fighters relax slightly, relieved that one android had been dealt with, leaving just 3 left. But before they could confront them, they were shocked when they saw that 22's body was still moving, something that should be impossible. Then to further their shock, 22's torso suddenly regrew, along with his arms and his head, leaving him completely healed. Tearing off his now destroyed chest armor, as well as the upper part of his bodysuit, 22 gave a shout as he unleashed a burnt orange aura of Kai, with his power now even greater than before, thanks to his Zenkai boost. Thanks for the power-up, 22 said, smirking, before vanishing in a burst of speed. Tien gasped in pain when 22 buried his fist in his stomach, sending the triplets flying into the cliffside. 22 then reappeared in front of Trunks, grabbing his head, before unleashing a Kai blast, launching the half-Saiyan towards the ground, forming a crater on impact. Piccolo was then met with a spin kick to his back, sending him flying away as well. The Saiyan android then turned his attention to Krillin, only for the fighter to be fast enough to raise his hands to his head. Solar flare, Krillin shouted, unleashing a blinding light, with 22 crying out as he closed his eyes and shielded them from the light. Acting quickly, Krillin formed a Destructo disc and threw it at 22, cutting him in half at the waist. Regenerate from that, Krillin said, only to pale, when he saw 22 was still smirking. Okay. 22 stated, before both halves of his body flew back together and were reconnected. 22 then resumed his attack, appearing in front of Krillin and slammed his elbow onto the fighter's head, launching him back into the ground. Sensing an attack coming, 22 flipped over Vegeta, and before the Saiyan Prince could react, 22 threw his leg out, straight into Vegeta's arm, with a snapping sound echoing through the entire forest. Vegeta cried out in pain as his arm was broken, only to be silenced when 22 grabbed his head, before flying back to where the other androids were slammed, and Vegeta down onto the street, forming a crater. Looking around, 22 saw that all his fighters were down for the count. Nice going, 22. Are you gonna kill them? 17 asked, smirking at the beating 22 just gave them. No, they were able to put up a good fight. If I kill them now, then I wouldn't get the chance to see if they'll get stronger and give me a better challenge. 22 said as he smirked his down opponents. Well, I say we leave, cause I doubt any cars are going to be showing up anytime soon. 18 stated, doubting anyone will drive by, with the explosions going off. Nodding in agreement, the androids flew off, leaving these fighters to pull themselves out of the holes and craters that 22 left them in. Well, that could have gone better. Though, I'm wondering how that android was able to survive all our attacks. Tien said, accepting the Senzu beam from Krillin. Given the fact Jiro is aware of Saiyans, he's probably aware of the fact they get stronger whenever they recover from being near death. He likely outfitted that Saiyan android with some kind of regeneration ability, being able to survive attacks that'd normally kill him, only to come back stronger. Piccolo said, not knowing 22 was in fact immortal and couldn't die at all. This is worse than I could have thought. If 22 is already that strong in his base form, plus the 2 Zenkai boosts he gained, then 17 and 18 are probably even stronger than they were in my time. Trunks said, worried and fearful that his time traveling made things worse than he could have imagined. But I also noticed that 17 and 18, they're not like my world's versions. They wouldn't hesitate to have killed us, instead they just left. Trunks added, not knowing what to think about this. Well, maybe since Goku didn't die, like in your time, Jiro spent more time making 17 and 18 stronger, rather than turning them into killing machines. Along with building more androids to fight him, in case they failed. Krillin suggested, since that seemed the most likely reason. Maybe. But either way, those androids are still a threat and need to be stopped, no matter what. We have to stop them. Trunks said, knowing the androids may not be the same monsters he knew, but they still couldn't be allowed to wander freely and cause who knows how much destruction. Vegeta made a TSK noise, before flying off with a scowl on his face, angry at how he had lost that fight against a low-class Saiyan. Hime Super Saiyan. Damn it. Piccolo thought, before flying off to the lookout, knowing what he needed to do to get strong enough to challenge the androids. He just hoped nothing else happened to increase 22's power even more. Or worse, something else entirely showing up. After all, with the appearance of not just Dr. Jiro and Android 19, but also Android 16 and Android 22. Who knows what else Jiro might have had cooked up in his lab that wasn't there in Trunks' time. Especially since he had overheard Jiro muttering his desire to one day complete Android 21. And while that may no longer be a possibility, he wouldn't put it past Jiro to have some kind of contingency in place in the event of his death. It wasn't long after leaving these fighters that the 4 androids landed next to a road in a snow-covered area. Though not a moment later, 18 smacked 22 upside the head, making the Saiyan androids stumble from the force of the blow. What was that for? 22 demanded, annoyed at 18 for hitting him out of nowhere, like that. For being an idiot and letting those losers attack you, while also allowing yourself to get cut in half. Honestly, what were you thinking? 18 said, both angry and worried at how reckless 22 was, by letting himself nearly be killed twice. Though she wasn't as angry about the second time, given that he had been sneak attacked, and didn't actually let himself be cut in half. Note to self, punt Baldy into the sun. 18 thought, having wanted to blast Krillin for that trick. Were you upset I wasn't in any real danger? Anything they did, I would have just healed from. 22 said, his anger lowering, seeing as 18 didn't hit him out of malice, though he was still confused as to why she was upset. Well, just don't do it again. I was really worried. 18 said, crossing her arms while looking at him softly. Her words shocked 22, along with how she looked at him, not expecting to hear she was worried. You were worried? 22 asked, not sure what else to say, given it's the first time anyone's expressed worry for him. While he had been in the stasis pod, he had still been somewhat aware of the world around him, being able to still hear things, but not able to actually do anything. And while he had been in the pod, he heard Jiro go on about Son Goku and his friends, along with how he, 22, would be his ultimate weapon to kill them. That's what 22 was meant to be, a weapon created to ensure Jiro's revenge. Nothing more, nothing less. Of course I was worried. Why wouldn't I be? 18 said, frowning at 22's confused and unsure expression. I was created to be a weapon, that's what Jiro always called me, either Android 22 or the weapon. 22 said. In Jiro I should have smashed his head, myself. 18 cursed mentally, as her hatred for Jiro growing even more. By the way, 22. What was with that regeneration back there? I didn't think Saiyans could do that. 17 said, curious of what other DNA Jiro used to make 22, if he was able to regenerate most of his body and survive being cut in half. They can't. And it wasn't just regeneration, Jiro used the Dragon Balls to make me immortal. I can't. And will heal from any attacks, no matter how fatal they'd be. 22 answered, having been made aware of all the powers and abilities Jiro gave him. The only one he wasn't aware of was the Super Saiyan transformation. Given Jiro initially believed it was just a new power level Goku achieved with his Kaioken, not an actual transformation. Wait, if he made you immortal, why didn't he just make himself immortal? 18 asked, since that seemed like the more obvious answer. Dr. Jiro already considered himself immortal, after turning himself into an android. He did not take into account you and 17 betraying him after he shut you down when you tried killing him last time. Answered 16, with 22 nodding in agreement. He's right, and Jiro didn't make me immortal just so I couldn't die. He made me immortal to take full advantage of the Saiyan's ability to grow stronger from near death, without worry of actually dying. This way, the more times I let myself get hit with attacks that would kill me, the stronger I get. 22 added. This made the twins facepalm at Jiro's overconfidence, given you think after they tried killing him the first time, he'd want to avoid giving them a second opportunity. Though, they were grateful, since if the doctor hadn't been so set on attacking on the anniversary of the Red Ribbon Army's defeat, then he would have had more time to reprogram them, and finish programming 22. Making them nothing but killing machines, loyal to Jiro. Deciding to move on, the androids began walking along the road, with 17 still wanting to steal a car, rather than fly. Thankfully, it wasn't long until they arrived at a roadside rest stop, with a van parked outside. Sweet van, 17 said, glad they finally found a vehicle, even better, one that'll be able to fit 16's giant frame. Okay, now how are we supposed to drive it, without the keys? Said 18, pointing out the fact that the keys were missing. Looking at the rest stop, 17 smirked and headed towards it. Give him a minute. Not a moment later, 17 came out of the rest stop, spinning the van keys and whistling a tune. Got the keys, now let's G. 17 stopped short when he saw 18 smirking at him in the driver's seat, with 22 sitting on the passenger side, while 16 was in the back. But, I was going to drive. 17 said, having wanted to be the driver while 18 smirked widened as she took the keys and pointed to the back. Sorry bro, I'm driving. And there's only enough room in the front for 2, and you did say it'd be a good way for 22 to experience the world. 18 said, feeling a little smug at using her brother's words against him. Seeing no other choice, 17 got in the back with 16, and crossed his arms. My sensors indicate that you are pouting. 16 stated. I'm not pouting, you're pouting. 17 muttered as he sulked over not getting to drive. Totally pouting. 18 thought, as she started the van and drove off. Lookout. Meanwhile, Piccolo had finally arrived at the lookout, while preparing himself to fuse once more with Kami. Hello Mr. Popo. Piccolo greeted, upon seeing the genie. Hello Piccolo. What brings you here? Mr. Popo asked, afraid of seeing the Demon King Piccolo's son. He's here for me. Kami said from his place on the edge of the lookout, not once looking away from the world. You know why I'm here, old man. Piccolo stated while approaching his other half with Kami glancing at his evil half's reincarnation. Yes, I know. But I can't, not yet at least. Kami said, with Piccolo scowling. Why not? Piccolo demanded, misinterpreting Kami's words as him simply not wanting to become part of him again. Because, you all believe these androids are the true threat. They aren't, let alone Android 22. Kami said. The beating he gave us says otherwise. Piccolo retorted while crossing his arms. And would you expect a different response from a Saiyan, let alone one who has been created only for the purpose of fighting? I would even say that Android 22 is quite similar to Goku, back when he was just a boy. Both alone and ignorant of the world around them. Kami said, having monitored Goku's life ever since he first arrived on Earth, and could see much of Goku back when he was a boy in 22. What about his regeneration? Could Jiro have included my DNA in Android 22? Piccolo asked, figuring 22's regeneration came from Namekian DNA. No, Android 22 is pure Saiyan. From what I have heard, his ability to regenerate came from a wish Jiro made on the Dragon Balls to make 22 immortal. Kami answered, having been keeping a close eye on the androids when they were first released and heard what 22 told 16, 17, and 18 of his abilities. Well, at least we know who used the Dragon Balls while we were training. Piccolo stated, having sensed Shenron being summoned during the 3 years they spent training with Kami, nodding in agreement. But what the two didn't know was that Jiro used the Namekian Dragon Balls to make 22 immortal, while Shenron had been summoned by the Pelif gang, and turned them into babies due to their wish backfiring. While Kami is the guardian of Earth, he's not all-knowing, given how he hadn't been aware of Jiro's plans and him creating the androids. You still haven't answered my question. Why would you fuse with me? Piccolo demanded. I told you, I can't, not until this new threat reveals itself, said Kami, knowing what he was sensing now would prove to be a bigger threat than the androids could ever pose. Grunting in annoyance at Kami's refusal, Piccolo decided to simply wait, and sat down to meditate. With the androids. Finally, a town with a clothes shop. 18 said, as she pulled the van into a small town, pleased when she saw they had a clothing store. Given that 22's armor was mostly destroyed after his fight with his fighters, along with not being that inconspicuous to begin with, it'd be good to get him some normal clothes. Plus, 18 wanted to get new clothes as well, preferably ones without the Red Ribbon Army insignia on them. You two want anything? 18 asked, while looking at 17 and 16. I'm good. 17 said, being perfectly fine with his clothes, while 16 remained silent, which 18 taking that as a no as well. Alright, come on 22. 18 said, as the two androids got out of the van. Women? Right, 16. 17 said, once he was sure his sister was out of range. Indeed, she is a female. 16 replied, with 17 sweat dropping at the giant misunderstanding his words. You know, how about we look around? See if we can find you a hobby, or something. 17 suggested, figuring it'd be better than having 16 completely focused on hunting and killing Goku. Very well. 16 said, as the two got out of the van to look around the town. Later. After 22 and 18 had gone shopping for new clothes, they had met up with 17, before all three androids headed to a restaurant. With 16 having returned to the van, after looking around town with 17. 18's new attire consisted of a black mini vest with a golden triangle pin, a white short-sleeve undershirt with a pearl necklace, dark teal jeans with a golden chain, a brown belt, a pair of short black gloves with a gold bracelet on the left one, and black flats with orange socks. 22 was wearing black boots and gloves, each with red straps on them, black form-fitting pants that are tucked into his boot, a brown belt with a silver buckle, a black shirt, and a brown leather jacket over it, along with a red scarf that 18 had gotten him when she took notice of his interest in it, tied around his neck. The blonde android had also been pleased when her new outfit managed to get a reaction out of 22, along with his choice of clothing, which looked much better than his previous outfit. Currently though, 17 and 18 were staring in amazement as 22 ate bowl after bowl of ramen noodles. One of the dishes, the restaurant they were currently at served. I'm really thankful you managed to swipe the old bastard's credit card before killing him. 18 whispered to her brother, with 17 nodding in agreement before turning their attention back to 22, only for their eyes to widen when they saw that the tower of bowls seemed to have doubled. How the twins thought in disbelief at how much 22 was eating. Though 18 soon took notice of how 22 seemed to like the ramen with Narutomaki in it the most. Ha, Narutomaki. Naruto. 18 thought while looking at 22, he noticed her look at him and paused in his eating. What 22 asked, confused when 18 smiled suddenly. Naruto. 18 stated, making her brother and 22 looking at her in confusion. What you want ramen now? 217 asked, assuming that's what his sister meant. No, his name, it should be Naruto. 18 said, motioning to 22 who looked at her in surprise. My name? 22 asked, with 18 nodding. Yeah, you need a name, rather than just being called Android 22. A chance to become who you want to be, rather than what Jiro made you to be. 18 said. Naruto, I like it, said the now named Naruto, while smiling faintly. 17 then stifled his chuckles, getting their attention. Sorry, but you do realize she literally named you fish cake, right? 17 said in an amused tone, only for 18 to smack him on the head. It also means maelstrom, and after the beating he gave those guys I'd say that's pretty fitting. 18 said, smirking, while Naruto's smile widened at her words. What about you guys? And 16, don't you want your own names? Naruto asked, wanting his friends to have names as well. We already have names, actual names, before Jiro found us. 17 said, surprising Naruto, not knowing this. Really, what are they? Naruto asked, excited to know his friends' true names. My name's Lapis. Introduced the now renamed Lapis. My name's Lazuli. Lazuli said, as she reintroduced herself, also. Lapis and Lazuli. Those are nice names, we just have to find one for 16 now. Naruto said, wanting to find the giant android a name as well. We will, I'm sure we'll think of one later. Lazuli said, as she smiled at being able to help Naruto while on their trip. With Vegeta. Damn it, how could I be defeated by that low-class abomination? Vegeta screamed, as he unleashed a Kai Blast, destroying a mountain in the distance. He was still enraged over his loss against Android 22, even worse was that it was a machine that dared call itself a Saiyan. It only angered Vegeta even further, since he was a Super Saiyan, and yet he was still beaten. How a Super Saiyan was supposed to be the strongest, so how did he lose? But, could it Beckle there be more to the legend of the Super Saiyan? Have I yet to truly achieve that legendary power, or have I only scratched the surface of what I can do? Vegeta thought, before clenching his fists tightly. I swear, I will not stop until I surpass my limits. I will gain the power of a true Super Saiyan, and then, I swear, we will settle the score. 22 Vegeta shouted, as his Kai covered him like a shroud. Then with a roar, Vegeta's Kai exploded into a bright gold, as he transformed into a Super Saiyan. But he didn't stop there, as Vegeta grunted as he forced every ounce of his power out and shouted, as the ground began shaking under the weight of his power. I won't stop, I will never stop, I will be the strongest, Vegeta roared, as he threw his head back as his power continued rising higher and higher. With Krillin, Trunks, and Tien. Meanwhile, Krillin, Trunks and Tien were flying towards Goku's house, all three of them having agreed it'd be good to move Goku to Kane House for the time being. At least until he was back to full health, and not a sitting duck for the androids. Though the three immediately froze and looked to where Vegeta was, sensing his power shooting through the roof. Father. Trunks muttered, worried about his father, and wanting to go see if he was alright. Trunks, I know what you're thinking and don't. The best thing we can do is leave Vegeta to blow off some steam. Krillin said, not wanting Trunks to get hurt by confronting Vegeta when he's this angry. He's right, Trunks. You don't want to be anywhere near Vegeta when he's this angry. Tien added, knowing Trunks would only endanger himself. But what if he needs help, or if the androids go after him? Trunks argued, not wanting his father to die again like in his time. Trust us, Trunks. We may not know Vegeta that well, but we know more than you do right now. Vegeta is prideful, with an ego as big as an Izaru, which only got bigger when he became a Super Saiyan, something he believed was unstoppable. This made his defeat against Android 22 even more crushing than it was. Being defeated by a Saiyan that hasn't achieved that same transformation, along the fact that he is an android, probably doesn't help, either. Tien said, with Krillin nodding in agreement. Yeah. If you approach Vegeta now, the best you could hope for is him brushing you off harshly, at worst he might attack you. Krillin added with Trunks looking at them, unsure how to feel about their words. Would he really do that? Trunks asked, not believing his father would attack him, his own son. Tien and Krillin traded unsure looks, before turning back to the half-Saiyan. We don't know, honestly. Until recently, Vegeta was our enemy. I mean, he did work with me and Gohan back on Namek, but that was more out of mutual benefit than him actually wanting to help. But given what we've seen so far, I wouldn't be surprised if he did attack you or any of us if we approached him. Krillin said, remembering how Vegeta killed Nappa, his own comrade, after Goku beat him to the point of paralysis. And given the healing technology Vegeta showed him and Gohan after taking Goku to Frieza's ship, Krillin figured that Nappa could have been healed. But Vegeta killed him, anyway. Trunks sighed but nodded as he saw their points, knowing it'd be better to just leave his father to let his anger out, before approaching him. With that, the three continued towards Goku's house. Thankfully it didn't take them long to arrive, and were greeted by Chi-Chi, Yamcha and Gohan. The latter having arrived, after dropping Bulma, Baby Trunks and Yajirobe off at Capsule Corporation. Trunks pulled out his carrier jet capsule, which Mother had sent along with him from the future, in case he and the others got hurt, and didn't have the energy to fly. After loading Goku into the jet, they took off and headed towards Kame House. Though it wasn't long after they had taken off, that they got a phone call. Hello? Krillin said, answering only to quickly pull it away when he heard Bulma on the other end. Where the hell is that idiot? I gave birth to, Bulma demanded. It's for you Trunks, it's your mother. Krillin said, while turning the speakerphone on. Mom, what is it? Trunks asked, wondering what she needed, or if something happened. Trunks, I can't believe how irresponsible you could be. I mean seriously, leaving your time machine out in the opening, where anyone could find it, Bulma shouted, not believing her son would do something so careless. She would have continued, if not for Baby Trunks starting to cry, believing he was the one being scolded. Trunks' eyes widened in confusion at his mother's words. What did she mean by leaving his time machine out in the opening? He didn't even take it off his person. Oh no sweetie, I don't mean you, you are my darling little angel. I meant the other you, the irresponsible teenager you'll become. Bulma cooed. Wait. Mom, can you explain just what exactly is going on? Trunks asked, wanting to understand just what is happening. The time machine, Trunks. It was found outside of Gingertown in the forest. Here, I'll send a picture. Bulma, sending the picture via the built-in fax machine. Seeing the picture come out, Trunks grabbed it, and his eyes widened in shock when he did in fact see his time machine. That's impossible, that can't be my time machine. I still have it right here in its capsule, Trunks said, while pulling out his time machine capsule. Dude, if it's not your time machine, Trunks, and where when did it come from? Bulma asked, worried of where this new time machine could have come from. I'm not sure, but I'm going to find out. Trunks said. I'll go too. I might not have been able to help with the androids, but this is something that I can help with. Gohan said. Nodding, Trunks and Gohan got out of the jet and flew to where this second time machine was located. All while Trunks couldn't help but feel that the androids just became the least of their worries. Meanwhile, unknown to both the fighters and the androids, in a town miles away from both their locations, a new being could be seen attacking the people. The creature resembled a large bipedal bug, colored green with black spots, with hints of blue beneath its exoskeleton, orange on its faces and stomach, and a long tail with a stinger. This was Cell, one of Dr. Jiro's androids, created to become the perfect being, and created from the DNA of these fighters and their enemies. Though this Cell also came from an alternate timeline, where Trunks had succeeded in killing androids 17 and 18. With Cell killing Trunks and taking his time machine to travel to the past, where he could absorb 17 and 18, to obtain his perfect form. Currently though, Cell was absorbing dozens of people, increasing his strength in preparation for confronting 17 and 18. Or on the chance he encounters any of these fighters, and needs to fight them. Though not too long ago, Cell had paused in his feasting, when he sensed a battle between Naruto and these fighters. Unfortunately, the android had only been able to sense this fighter's energy, being unable to sense Naruto's due to his cybernetics. What had Cell's attention had been the energy they used against this opponent, and how easily they were defeated. Interesting. Going off the energy they used during the fight, along with combining their strongest attacks together using nearly all their Kai, likely in an attempt to kill this stranger. It means whoever they are, they're definitely stronger than these fighters if they're able to survive attacks like that, and still be able to crush them. Cell thought, curious as to who this new fighter was, and why he couldn't sense their Kai, even when they're in the middle of a fight. Sensing his own current power level, Cell frowned as well. He had gained more than enough power to defeat these fighters as well. Whoever this stranger was, they defeated them as if they weren't even a challenge to begin with. Seems I'll have to wait a while longer before approaching my siblings to absorb him. Given whoever this stranger is, they'd likely give me some trouble. Even more so if it's actually 17 or 18 that defeated them. Cell thought before he resumed absorbing the people in the town, planning to hunt down more people to absorb to grow even stronger. He was so close to obtaining his perfection, and he wouldn't let anyone stand in his way again. The lookout. Though, unknown to Cell, his drinking had caught the attention of Kami, as the Guardian had been searching for the new threat. Before finally picking up on dozens of lives that suddenly vanished, making Kami quickly look to where they are disappearing from, only to see Cell as the one responsible. Found you. Kami thought, knowing that this was the threat he had sensed, and seeing what this being was doing firsthand along with how their powers seemed to grow with the more humans they absorbed, the Guardian knew they needed to be dealt with. But Kami could also sense that the being already had powers surpassing these fighters, meaning the only way they'd stand a chance against him was if he merged with Piccolo. Piccolo, it's time. Kami said, turning to his other half with Piccolo standing up from his meditation. You found this new threat? Piccolo questioned with Kami nodding as they stood across from each other. Yes, and I felt how powerful it was. And the only way to defeat it is together. Kami replied. Kami, are you sure about this? Mr. Popo asked. There's nothing to worry about, Mr. Popo. Alone, I can do little to help those on Earth. The time is right. Piccolo has changed. The evil that once filled his entire being has greatly diminished, and when we unite, I trust he will use our combined strength in the service of good. Kami said, before dropping his staff and walked up to Piccolo. The two halves looked at each other, before nodding, as Piccolo placed a hand on Kami's chest. Then with a shout, Piccolo and Kami were engulfed in a bright light with the Guardian screaming as if he was dying, as his body transformed into pure energy that was absorbed into Piccolo. The two Namekians having become one once again, having fused permanently into their original form. Goodbye, Kami. Mr. Popo said, with tears in his eyes as he picked his old friend's staff, as he looked at Piccolo. I am no longer Kami or Piccolo. I am the Namekian who has long since forgotten his name. So long, old friend. Piccolo said, knowing he was whole once again while giving Mr. Popo a smile, before flying off the lookout to confront Cell. Goodbye, Kami. Korin thought, while watching Piccolo fly off. Later. Piccolo soon arrived at the site of Cell's latest attack, seeing the town was completely deserted of people. Aside from clothes lying around, with puncture marks in them. The Namekian then tensed when he heard footsteps approaching him. Looking, Piccolo's eyes widened in shock at getting his first look at Cell in person. What the hell is this thing? Piccolo thought, while getting ready for a fight. Well, isn't this a surprise? Tell me, what brings you here? Piccolo's Cell questioned while smirking, as Piccolo's shock increased at learning that this thing knew his name. How do you know my name and just what are you? Piccolo demanded, as Cell chuckled and swung his tail. Now, where would the fun be in that? How about a wager? If you manage to impress me in a fight, I'll tell you exactly who I am. Cell said, wanting to see just how much stronger he's become, from all the people he's absorbed. HMPH, if it's a fight you want, I'll be more than glad to beat the answers out of you. Piccolo said. Haha, we'll see who does the beating. Raya, Cell shouted, as he flared his power, blowing back everything around him and Piccolo, along with forming a small crater around him. Though Piccolo wasn't impressed, or intimidated by Cell's show of power, given how strong Naruto had been when they fought. And now that he's fused with Kami, Piccolo knew he was strong enough to crush this creature. Is that all you got here? Let me show you how it's done, Piccolo shouted, flaring his own power, his own ending up consuming the entire town in an explosion, with Cell's eyes widening in shock, as he now sensed Piccolo's power was far stronger than he previously sensed. When the explosion faded, the town had been reduced to ruins, with neither Cell nor Piccolo anywhere in sight. Before a pile of rubble began moving, as Cell threw the rubble off himself. That power, Piccolo didn't have it when he fought the stranger. He must have fused with Kami to attain that strength. Cell thought, being aware of Kami and the connection he shared with Piccolo from Jiro's files uploaded into him. Cell then saw Piccolo flying towards him, the bio-android aiming to punch the Namekian out of the air. Only for Piccolo to dodge the strike and fly around Cell, before quickly flying back towards him, delivering a kick to Cell's back, knocking him away. Catching himself, Cell stood up straight and faced Piccolo, seeing the Namekian already in front of him, aiming to give the bio-android another kick. Though Cell was ready this time, and began rapidly jumping backwards, to get some space between them. He's faster than me and stronger, as well. Fusing with Kami increased his power more than I expected. I'll have to get in close to absorb him, or else Cell's thoughts were cut off as he cried out when Piccolo sped behind him and gave him another kick to the back, sending him flying through the air. Piccolo, once again, sped across the ruins to where Cell would land, ready to give him another attack. But was surprised when Cell stopped in midair, just before he could attack him, with the bio-android then flying high up into the air. Hissing angrily at the attacks, Cell held up two fingers to his head as they sparked with Kai. What that stance? Piccolo thought, recognizing what Cell was doing, but had trouble believing this creature knew one of his attacks. Special beam cannon, Cell shouted, thrusting his fingers at Piccolo, launching the beam at the shocked Namekian. While Piccolo was shocked at seeing his own attack being used against him, he was still able to knock it off to the side, where it hit a building. This, however, left Piccolo open, as Cell flew down, and slammed his fist into the Namekian's face, knocking him away. Flying after Piccolo, Cell sent a sweeping kick at him, only for Piccolo to fly into the air, with Cell following right behind him. The two fighters exchanged blows, as they ascended higher and higher into air, before Piccolo managed to punch Cell in the mouth, and escape the close quarters. Shaking off the blow, Cell saw Piccolo flying right at him, with the bio-android throwing another punch, only to be surprised, when Piccolo phased right through him. Turning around, Cell saw Piccolo flying right above him. He's gonna kick me again, isn't he? Cell thought, being proved right when Piccolo gave him a kick to the jaw, launching him straight back towards the ground, where he crashed into more rubble. I swear, if you kick me one more time, I will drink you, Cell said, climbing out of the rubble, starting to get angry over the constant kicking. HMPH, well, I can't deny that you're powerful. Now how about you tell me how you know my attack? Piccolo demanded. Well, what can I say? Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, Cell said, as he got into another familiar stance, one that shocked Piccolo even more than the special beam cannon. That's impossible. How could he know that attack? Piccolo thought, knowing it shouldn't be possible for this being to know that attack. Kamehameha! Cell shouted, firing Goku's signature attack at Piccolo, with the Namekian being shocked that Cell actually knew how to use the Kamehameha. Though despite his shock, Piccolo was able to easily avoid it, flying up into the air. Damn it, the special beam cannon, the Kamehameha, what other surprises does this thing have? Piccolo wondered. Surprise! Cell shouted, appearing behind Piccolo, and wrapping his arms and legs around him, before stabbing his stinger into Piccolo's arm. Piccolo cried out as he felt Cell began absorbing his energy as his arm became withered and useless. I have you now, Piccolo, said Cell, confident this would be the end of things, and grant himself a major power boost. Gritting his teeth, Piccolo threw his head back, slamming it into Cell's face, with the bio-android grunting as he lost his grip on Piccolo. With Piccolo taking the chance to fly back to the ground and held his now useless arm. Haha, cheap trick. But look at you, you're done for, Piccolo, Cell said, knowing without his arm, Piccolo wouldn't be able to challenge him even with his enhanced power. TSK, you're right. I give up. But before you finish me, just who are you? Piccolo questioned, needing to buy time, so he can regenerate his arm, and wanted to take the chance to see if he can find out more about this thing. Very well, I suppose you deserve the right to know the identity of the one who'll kill you. My name is Cell, a bio-android created by someone I'm sure you're familiar with. My father, Dr. Jiro, Cell revealed. Because of course there's another android, Piccolo muttered, figuring he should have expected this. Yes, and unlike the good doctor's other creations, I am purely biomechanical. Created from the gathered cells of the world's strongest fighters, Goku, Vegeta, Frieza, King Cold, and you as well, Piccolo. I came to this time period from my own future, after culling the trunks of my time, and taking his time machine. Unfortunately, I was unable to fit inside it, so I had to revert to my larvae stage, and wait 3 years to return to my current form. Cell explained, with Piccolo frowning at hearing there's another time machine, and that Cell came from another timeline. Why come here? Why come to the past if you were from a future where we were all dead? And how are you even alive now? Jiro's lab was blown up, Piccolo asked, figuring Cell of this time would have been destroyed when Trunks blew up the lab. I was created by a supercomputer under the lab. As for why I came here, because in my future, Trunks took something from me. He killed androids 17 and 18, robbing me of the chance to absorb them and achieve my perfect form. But I found a way to still achieve my perfection. I killed him and took his time machine to come here. Now here I am, and this time, nothing will stop me from reaching my true perfect form, Cell said. Okay, last question. What happened to Android 22 in your time? Did you absorb him? Piccolo asked, wondering what happened to the future 22 only for Cell to frown in confusion. Android 22? There's no Android 22. Cell said, having no files on Jiro creating Android 22. Well, there's an Android 22 here. A pure Saiyan android created by Jiro, possessing some form of regeneration to heal from any attacks, allowing him to grow stronger thanks to his Saiyan DNA. Piccolo said, with Cell's eyes widening as he realized that the mystery person, who his fighters fought, was Android 22. And if he was really a pure Saiyan android, able to regenerate from any attacks, Cell realized his goal just became a lot harder. Though he was also intrigued at this development as he was sure there was no Android 22 in his timeline, and yet there was one here. Well then, if that's everything you have to say, Piccolo said, smirking, before ripping his shriveled up arm off, and with a shout, a new one took his place. Well, how clever, Piccolo. Stalling for time to gather the necessary energy to regrow your arm while also learning what you can about me. At least I know where my analytical mind came from, Cell said, before jumping back on top of a half-destroyed building, ready for the fight to continue. Yeah, and even with the energy you stole from me, I'm still strong enough to kill you. And pay you back for what you did to my arm, maybe by taking yours. Or better yet, I'll take your head. Piccolo said, while smirking at the bio-android. Just then, Krillin and Trunks arrived, before landing beside Piccolo, with the two fighters looking at Cell in shock. What is that thing, and why does this energy feel like all of ours mixed together? Krillin asked, confused at the feel of Cell's Kai. Trunks still couldn't help but feel afraid upon looking at Cell, despite having never seen this thing before. I'll explain later. Right now, we have to squash this bug, Piccolo said, with Krillin and Trunks nodding, as they got into their stances. HM, sorry boys, but that wouldn't be happening, Cell said, flying up into the air in front of the sun, and held his hands up to his head. Solar flare, Cell shouted, with his fighters crying out as they were blinded by the light, while Cell flew off to find more people to drink. That was Tien's move, wasn't it? Piccolo asked, after they could see clearly again. Yeah, it was. Piccolo, what was that thing? Krillin asked, Piccolo looking at the two before he began explaining what Cell was and where he came from. It shocked Krillin and Trunks learning there was another android, and just where it came from as well, with it at least explaining where the other time machine came from. But now, they had an even bigger threat to deal with. If that's true, then we need to go and deal with the Cell this time, and make sure he can't become a threat later. We might even be able to find something to use against the other androids as well, Trunks said, hoping they could find something that could help them take out the other 4 androids. Yeah. I'll go with you, Trunks, Krillin said, with the half-say nodding before the two flew off back to where Jiro's lab was, while Piccolo flew to tell the others about Cell. With the androids. Meanwhile, Naruto and 16 were looking off to where they had sensed Cell and Piccolo fighting, with Naruto frowning as he sensed Piccolo's increase in power, compared to when they first met. He must have fused with Kami, Naruto thought, having the same files on Kami and Piccolo's connection as Cell did. Yo, 16, Naruto, why are you two just staring off into space? Asked Lapis, since he and his sister were unable to sense Kai, so to them, their fellow androids were just looking off in a random direction. We sense Piccolo fighting someone, a creature whose Kai feels like a mix of his fighters, along with some of their enemies. Piccolo's also grown stronger since the first time we fought, and from what I sense of the creature he went against, it's growing in strength as well, Naruto explained, with the twins raising a brow, not seeing any problem. Okay, so you already wiped the floor with Piccolo and the rest of those idiots. I doubt any strength he's gained could have made him a threat, or whatever he was fighting, Lazuli said. Do not be so sure. Piccolo's power has now more than tripled in strength. I would say he's about equal to the two of you individually, with you only having a slight advantage, due to your infinite energy, 16 said, making 17 and 18's eyes widen before looking at Naruto, and saw the serious look on his face, showing they weren't kidding. Okay, well, how exactly did he get this strong? 17 asked, since it wasn't that long ago that Naruto fought his fighters, and they didn't know how Piccolo could have gotten that much stronger. Piccolo had likely fused with his other half, Kami, the Guardian of Earth, restoring him to his true power, Naruto replied. Indeed. And I believe that we now have an unknown third party. I am unsure of their goal, but it would best if we kept an eye out for them in case they are a threat, 16 added, with the others agreeing with his words, especially Naruto, since something told him that whoever this unknown third party was, they weren't friendly. And while Naruto knew he was immortal, that didn't make him invincible. The four then proceeded to return to their van, and leave the town they were currently staying in. By the way, 16, did you want your own name, too? Naruto asked, as they made their way to the van. The name? 16 asked curiously. Yeah, I named Big Guy. Since well Jiro created you, that doesn't mean you should just be called 16. Besides, we're friends, aren't we? And friends help each other, like giving them a name, Lazuli said, with 16 looking at them surprised, but also feeling touched that they want him to have a name. So, any ideas on a name? Lapis asked, with 16 looking up in thought, as he subconsciously accessed his hidden memory files. Jibo, I would like my name to be Jibo. Jibo answered, with the other three looking at him in intrigue at his choice, especially with how close it sounded to Jiro. Any reason why you chose that name? Naruto asked. No, it just came to me, and seemed like a fitting choice, Jibo replied, with a small smile. The three still looked at him intrigued, before shrugging. Alright, Jibo it is, Lazuli said as they got into the van and drove off. Later with Krillin and Trunks. After some time, Krillin and Trunks soon returned to where Jiro's lab once was, and began searching for where Cell was, eventually finding the entrance into the basement, where they went down, and began looking around. Hey Trunks, I think found the blueprints for the androids, Krillin said, looking through several papers, showing the plans for the androids. Great work, Krillin. Hopefully, they'll have something that can help us against the androids. Now we can find where Cell is, here, Trunks said while going over the blueprints, glad that they might be able to get an advantage against the androids. Though what neither of them noticed, were 3 pods opening up in a dark corner of the basement, as 3 beings stepped out of them. These 3 being androids 13, 14, and 15, who were considered defective and failures by Jiro, with them now being released by the AI computer to deal with the intruders. "Pop, look at this, I think I found something we called," Krillin said, before he gasped in pain when he was suddenly shot in the back with a Kai blast and sent crashing through the wall. Krillin Trunks shouted in horror and ran over to his friend before looking at the one who attacked them, only to be further horrified at seeing 3 more androids. "Howdy there, I'm Android 13. Look at my trucker hat," said 13, smirking wickedly, before 15 blasted the table with the blueprints. "No," shouted Trunks, seeing their only chance of finding a weakness for the androids being destroyed. Krillin stood up on shaky legs, as his right arm hung limply at his side. "Trunks, I know you're angry, but we need to get out of here, now. The others need to know that there are more androids," Krillin said, with Trunks gritting his teeth, but nodded. Unfortunately, before they could try and escape, they were stopped as 14 and 15 rushed them, with 14 slamming Trunks into the wall. While 15 tossed Krillin across the lab, before launching a Kai blast that consumed the short fighter. No, Trunks screamed, as he sensed Krillin's energy immediately vanished. "Came house." Gohan gasped, as he looked up with wide eyes, sensing Krillin's energy suddenly vanish. "Two can't sense Krillin's energy anymore." But that would Monono, Gohan thought, clenching his fists. His eyes were closed tightly, realizing Krillin was dead. And the worst part was, the Dragon Balls were gone, with Kami fused with Piccolo, and they didn't know where Namek was, to use their Dragon Balls. Meaning that Krillin was really dead this time. Gritting his teeth in anger, Gohan threw his head back, letting out a loud scream of anger and sadness at his friend's death. Not even realizing as his Kai flared around him, before changing from a blue color, into a shimmering golden on. Meanwhile, upstairs, where Goku was resting, the Saiyan thrashed around in bed. "No, no, Krillin," Goku shouted, seeing a vision of Krillin's death, and desperately trying to move to help his friend. Goku. Chichi thought, worried for her husband and what was happening. With the androids. Naruto and Jibo looked up as sensing Krillin's energy suddenly vanish and knew what it meant. "You two sense another fight?" Lapis asked, figuring they were sensing something. "No, but we just sensed Krillin's energy vanish, showing he's dead," Naruto said, not feeling that torn up about it since he didn't know the monk, nor were they friends. "Krillin, that was the short guy, right?" Lazuli asked. "Correct," Jibo replied. "Damn it," Lazuli muttered while letting out a sigh in annoyance, since now, she wouldn't get the chance to pay him back for cutting Naruto in half. Jiro's lab. Trunks grit his teeth at the death of his friend, before giving a shout as he turned Super Saiyan. Buster Cannon, Trunks shouted, launching his attack at the androids 14 and 15, who jumped out of the way, while 13 protected himself with an energy shield. Well, the attack ended up blasting the AI computer, resulting in an explosion, consuming the basement. Trunks took the chance to fly away, though while he didn't want to retreat, he couldn't risk himself dying, as well. He needed to warn the others that there were more androids. "Should we go after him?" Bossman 15 asked. "Nah, let the little runt get away. Besides, he did us a favor destroying that computer. Now once we finish our objectives, we will truly be free of the doctor's control. And first, we'll be taking out those rogue androids before going after Goku and his friends next," 13 replied. "Yeah, and with the little midget destroyed, we have gotten a head start on our second objective," 14 said, sounding very similar to a certain Austrian-American actor and professional bodybuilder. "Yeah, we did, boys," 13 said with a smirk. With that, the 3 androids flew off, to begin searching for the traitors, and take them out. Though unknown to everyone else at the time, 13's barrier didn't just protect him, but also a certain pot behind him, containing the Sierra's cell, still in an embryonic state. With the pot having a backup power source and regulator, to keep it alive, without the supercomputer's AI. "Location compromised, initiating accelerated growth," the pot said, as the embryonic cell started growing at a much more rapid pace. It wasn't long, until Trunks arrived at Kame House, seeing everyone else was already gathered there, after Piccolo told them about Cell. With their moods only growing more solemn, when Trunks told them about Krillin's death, along with the fact that there are 3 more androids. Everyone was either saddened or distraught over Krillin's death. With it only being worse, since they no longer had Dragon Balls to revive him, nor did they know where New Namek was, to use their Dragon Balls. "How are we going to tell?" Goku Piccolo asked, while looking around with no one having an answer, since they all knew how close the 2 fighters were, and all of them knew that Goku would take it harder than all of them. "I already know," Goku said, exiting Kame House with the crying Chichi following behind him with a solemn expression and tone in his voice. While he had wanted to deny that his vision of Krillin's death was real, after he woke up and couldn't sense his friend's Kai anymore, Goku knew he was really gone. "Dad," Gohan said, while running over to his father, relieved to see he was alright, with Goku smiling at Gohan, glad to see him alright, as well. "Guys, not that I'm trying to make things worse than they already are, but what are we going to do now? We now have 10 androids that are likely after us, one that can't die, and another that can absorb people to grow stronger. That's not even counting what these 3 new ones are capable of," Yamcha said, knowing it was tough with just androids 16, 17, 18, and 22 around. Now they had Cell, along with androids 13, 14, and 15. It just seemed like they were in an impossible situation, even more so, without the Dragon Balls to help them. We still have time, before they can come after us. Androids 13, 14, and 15 are going after 16, 17, 18, and 22, at the moment. We can let the androids fight amongst each other, hopefully one side taking out the other, while we train to deal with the ones left. Goku said, surprising some of them with all of them knowing how much Goku enjoyed a challenge. Now to hear him say they should let the androids fight each other, and deal with the ones left, it only reinforced how serious the situation was. Goku, well, I'm all for getting stronger to take out the androids. We don't have the time needed to get that strong. Trunks said, knowing it won't be long, until the androids fight each other, while whoever's left standing comes after them, next. You're talking about the hyperbolic time chamber, Ardu Piccolo stated, realizing where Goku was going with the idea with the Saiyan nodding at his words, with the others being confused at what the time chamber was. Yeah. The hyperbolic time chamber is a room on the lookout, that only 2 people can enter at a time. Once inside, a person could train for an entire year, while only a day would pass outside. Goku explained, much to everyone's amazement at such a room existing. Though don't think this is all good. The room is just a giant white void, with no one end. Going inside it alone could drive someone mad. There's also a 2-year limit, or 2 days out here, and if you go over the limit, you'll be trapped inside, forever, with no way out. Goku warned, with everyone paling at this information, but figured there was likely a catch to such a room. Okay, so who'll be going into the time chamber? Trunks asked. You, me, Gohan, and Piccolo will be going to the lookout to enter the chamber. We'll also find Vegeta and bring him along as well. Goku replied, knowing they needed all the help they could get. But Goku, you aren't thinking of actually letting Gohan fight? Chi-Chi demanded, not wanting her son to fight either the androids or Cell, having never wanted Gohan to learn to fight to begin with. It didn't help that from what Trunks told them, Gohan was killed in the future by the androids. Plus, they already lost Krillin, and Chi-Chi didn't want to think of Gohan dying, as well. Chi-Chi, Gohan needs to fight. I know you're worried about him, but he's stronger than you think, stronger than any of us think. And right now, we need all the strength we can get to fight the androids and Cell. Goku said, knowing that if Gohan didn't join them in fighting the androids, and they lost anyway, then it wouldn't matter as he'd be forced to fight, regardless. Mom, Dad's right. I have to do this, I can't just sit back and do nothing, not if I have the power to help. Gohan said, refusing to let the others fight the androids alone, knowing he needed to help. Be alright. Chi-Chi said, unable to think of anything to say against it, and had to accept that Gohan would be joining the fight. Chi-Chi, if it makes you feel any better, once Cell and the androids are dealt with, Gohan can stop fighting and focus on his studies as a scholar. Goku said while pulling his wife into a comforting hug after seeing how distraught Chi-Chi looked. Thank you, Goku. Chi-Chi muttered, while tightening the embrace with her husband. While you guys are doing that, Yamcha and I will stay here to hold down the fort, Tien said, with Yamcha nodding in agreement. Yeah, if the androids of that Cell guy show up, we'll stall them as long as we can, said Yamcha. They'll take their own turn in the hyperbolic time chamber, that is if they were still alive, after the others had finished their own time training inside it. But for now, they believed it'd be better if their strongest fighters went first, as they'd be the ones who had the best shot of defeating the androids. Alright. But guys, be careful if they show up, don't take any unnecessary risks. Because if you're attacked and killed by Cell or the androids, that's it, we don't have Dragon Balls anymore to bring anyone back. Goku said as he and Chi-Chi broke their hug, not wanting any more of his friends to die. We will, and thank you, Goku. Tien said as he and Yamcha nodded gratefully at his concern. Okay, let's get going to the lookout, I'll instant transmission us there. Then go and grab Vegeta to bring him to the lookout as well. Goku said as the ones who will enter the time chamber nodded and grabbed hold of Goku before they teleported away. But androids 13, 14, and 15. Meanwhile, the 3 androids flew through the air, having finally located Naruto, Lazuli, Lapis, and Jibo. Having been implanted with the means of locating them by Jiro's computer, saving them time from simply flying around hoping to find them. 15, deal with that vehicle. 13 ordered. Will do. FF Spark Cannon said 15, holding his hands in front of him, before firing off a barrage of Kai blasts at the van, causing it to blow up. Naruto, Lazuli, Lapis, and Jibo flew out of the wreckage, protecting by Kai barriers. Okay, I'm gonna kill whoever did that, Lapis said, annoyed and upset that the van was destroyed before he got a chance to drive it. Now you see there, that's where you're wrong, 17. The only ones dying are you 4. 13 said as he, 14 and 15 flew down to the ground. Oh, you have got to be kidding me, Lazuli said while looking at 3 androids in disbelief. Who are these 3? Naruto asked, figuring they were androids, but had no records of them. They're androids 13, 14, and 15. They were sealed away by Dr. Jiro, after they were deemed defective. Jibo replied with Naruto raising a brow as he looked at the 3 androids, wondering how they're defective. Yeah. But now we are free, and soon you shall be terminated, 14 stated, causing Lapis and Lazuli to look at him with wide eyes. Lazuli said, now wondering just what was going through Jiro's head when he made these guys. Yeah. And I thought that the clown and trucker hat over there was supposed to be a joke. Lapis said. Hey now, there ain't nothing wrong with this here trucker hat, boy. The doc thought I needed fixin', but you can't fix what ain't broke. 13 said, while smirking at the four. Jibo, mind explaining? Naruto asked, completely lost at what was with these androids. Dr. Jiro was going through a phase. Jibo said. Yeah, a real messed up phase. And alright, if the Three Stooges want to get sent to the scrapyard, I'm more than happy to oblige. What'd you say, partner? Lapis stated while smirking. Oh, you misunderstand, boy. I'll be dealing with 22 there, but you and the lady are more than welcome to challenge 14 here. 13 said, as 14 stepped forward. Fine. Jibo, will you able to handle the purple dwarf? Lazuli asked. Don't make me come over there and kick your sorry, BLONDE 15 shouted, before pulling out his flask and taking a drink to calm himself down. Affirmative. I shall handle Android 15, Jibo said. Then it looks we all have our opponents, Naruto said smirking, before the 7 androids charged their respective enemies. When Naruto was close enough, he slammed his fist into 13's face, sending him flying off into the air, with the Saiyan android flying after him. 13 righted himself in the air, and blocked Naruto's second punch, before slamming his leg into the Saiyan's head, knocking him aside. TH Death Bomb 13 shouted, charging up a red Kai sphere, before launching it at Naruto, with the attacking homing in on him. Naruto crossed his arms, and created an energy shield that blocked the majority, only to grunt in pain, as the attack managed to destroy his shield and launch him back. Let me guess, TH stands for Naruto said, having a guess what it stood for. Trucker hat, Ya 13 said, before blitzing behind Naruto, slamming his elbow into the Saiyan's back before throwing his leg at his side. Though Naruto managed to grab 13's leg, stopping the attack, only to be surprised when 13 punched him in the face, making him lose his grip. With the android then pointing his index finger at Naruto, red Kai gathering at the tip. Deadly Crasher. 13 said smirking, while firing a giant Kai beam at Naruto, that consumed the upper part of his body. When the beam faded away, Naruto's body began regenerating. While being confused, since 13 seemed stronger than he looked, and yet he was considered defective. Out of curiosity, how are you so strong if you were considered defective by Jiro? Naruto asked as 13 chuckled wickedly. That's quite the kicker, now isn't it? You see, while the doc locked us away, he gave us quite a few upgrades, making us specially designed to take you down 22. Even with that immortality and unlimited energy of yours. 13 said before vanishing in another burst of speed, with Naruto grunting in pain again, when the android reappeared behind him, and forcefully bent his body backwards. Now it'd be mighty kind of you to hold still, as I tear you apart, 13 said while throwing Naruto higher into the air, before launching a barrage of Kai blast at him. This just got a lot harder, Naruto thought, grunting in pain as the blast hit him while his body healed itself. But Lapis and Lazuli. Meanwhile the twins weren't having much better luck against 14, none of their attacks seeming to phase the android. Ha, I've had mosquito bites more painful than you fools hit, 14 said while grabbing Lapis's leg before swinging him around, slamming him into Lazuli before letting go, sending the android crashing through a tree. Infinity Bullet, Lazuli shouted, raising her hands in front of her and charging a pink swirling energy sphere, before firing several energy spheres at 14, only for the android to not move an inch from where he was standing, before he began walking towards her. Seeing this, Lazuli began firing more blasts, hoping to at least slow down 14, only for the bigger android to immediately grab her wrists and headbutt her. 14 then punched Lazuli into the air, before following after her, and eat her in the stomach. Not stopping there, 14 punched Lazuli in the back, sending the female flying to the ground, before speeding after her, and floored her as he landed on her body. Finally, 14 pulled Lazuli by the collar of her shirt, up to face level with him, then headbutted her 3 more times, and delivered multiple punches, before finishing the attack with a powerful punch to the jaw. Ending with Lazuli flying through the air, before crashing into the ground, groaning in pain at attack. Electric shot, Lapis shouted, firing off an electric pink Kai ball at 14, with the android being slowed down slightly from the electricity, as Lapis flew down and helped his sister up. You alright? Lapis asked with Lazuli scowling and ripped off her now destroyed vest. I'm pissed. Power Blitz, Lazuli said, holding her hand back and charging a swirling pink energy sphere, before thrusting her hand forward, launching the attack at 14. Lapis joined in and fired his own Power Blitz at 14, with both the twins then firing rapidly blasts, hoping to destroy the other android. After a few moments, they finally stopped and looked at the smoke, waiting to see if 14 was still standing or destroyed. Only to be shocked when 14 walked out of the smoke with barely any injuries, with the biggest surprise being his face, which was now partially destroyed, showing the metal endoskeleton underneath. With the twins swearing that they heard the Terminator theme playing as they saw him coming out of the smoke. Seriously, did Jiro just binge watch a bunch of 80s movies when designing these 3? Lazuli asked in disbelief. I swear, if he turns into liquid metal, I'm leaving. Lapis said, refusing to deal with that kind of machine. Suddenly, 14 appeared in front of the twins and grabbed their heads. Hasta la vista, baby, 14 said, firing power Kai blasts at the twins, sending them flying back and crashing through several trees. Pushing the trees off themselves, Lapis and Lazuli groaned as they stood up to continue fighting the android. With Jibo grunted as 15 sped around him, punching and kicking the tall android, with 16 having been unable to catch the fast-moving purple android. Come on, tall man, is that best you got? 15 taunted, as he ran around. Rocket punch, Jibo said, firing his fist at 15, who went to dodge it, only for the fist to home in on him, and slam into his head, knocking the purple android off balance. Oh, it's on now, murder ball, 15 shouted, firing a white kite ball at Jibo, with the attack exploding when it got close to him. Jibo managed to jump back in time to avoid most of the blast, but still had a few minor injuries. Only to be surprised when 15 sped behind him, delivering a kick to his back, sending him into the air, with the short android kicking Jibo higher and higher into the air. 15 said, firing a barrage of Kai blasts at 16, who raised his arms blocking the blasts. Hyper Cannon, Jibo said, firing 3 consecutive Kai blasts at 15, with the purple android once again speeding out of the way of the attacks. Though this time, Jibo was ready as he turned around and grabbed 15 as he reappeared behind him before firing multiple Kai blasts at 15, sending him crashing back to the ground. With Jibo constantly launching more blasts, before 15 managed to jump out of the way. Grunting, 15 cracked his neck and dusted off his clothes before pulling out his flask to take another drink. Only to see his flask was now broken at the bottom and was now empty. Now you see, now you just pissed me off. 15 stated, crushing his flask in his hand and rushed Jibo. With Cell. Meanwhile, unknown to the battling androids, Cell was watching their battles from a safe distance away, from within the shadows. Though, while Cell couldn't locate the androids by sensing their Kai, there were other means of locating them. Such as the shockwaves of their battles getting his attention, and while he couldn't sense the androids themselves, he could sense their Kai attacks, and was able to follow the signatures to the battleground. So that's Android 22. Cell thought while looking up at Naruto and 13's battle in the sky, before turning his attention back to Lapis and Lazuli, with a hungry gleam in his eyes. Though granted, Cell won't absorb 17 and 18 now, still wanting to bide his time and grow stronger. He's just taking the opportunity to scout them out to get a feel for their fighting styles, and any potential weaknesses they may have. Especially 22, since at the moment, he's the biggest threat to Cell's goal. Of course, if Cell saw an opening to absorb the androids, he'll take it. But for now, he'll simply watch and wait. With Lapis and Lazuli. Lapis ducked under a punch from 14 before slamming his fist into the android's stomach and delivering an uppercut, knocking him off balance. With Lazuli following up by swinging her leg into the android's arm, only for 14 to block the kick and grab her leg, before swinging Lazuli into her brother, knocking them both back. Resistance is futile. Give up now, and you shall die quickly. 14 said while walking towards them as Lapis growled in annoyance. Oh, would you just shut up, you Terminator knockoff, Lapis shouted while rushing towards 14 and slamming his leg into the android's head, sending Ho flying off to the side. Lazuli quickly got up and flew around 14, delivering an axe kick to his back before smashing him into the ground. With the female android then picking him up and throwing him at her brother, with Lapis holding his arm out and clotheslining 14, using the momentum to slam him back into the ground. The twins then flew up into the air and gathered Kai in their hands. You terminated, Lazuli shouted. Axel dance, the twins said, while firing a large barrage of Kai blasts of 14, refusing to stop until the android was destroyed. I'll be back, 14 cried out as his body was being ripped apart by the blasts. The twins only stopped after several moments, before firing off 2 power blitz, just to be sure 14 was destroyed. When the smoke cleared, they relaxed as they saw 14's body was blasted into pieces and wouldn't be getting again. Come on, let's go help Naruto deal with Trucker Hat. Lapis said, with Lazuli nodding, as they flew off to where Naruto and 13 were fighting. With Jibo and 15 clashed against each other, throwing several punches at the other, only for them to dodge or blocked. Until Jibo succeeded in wrapping his arms around 15, before proceeding to fly them both straight towards the ground, where he crashed through it, with Jibo continuing to burrow deeper into the ground. Eventually, 16 gave 15 a solid punch embedding him into the hole he just dug, before quickly flying out, and standing on the edge of the hole. "Ah, you, just wait until I get out of here," 15 shouted from within the hole, as Jibo tucked his hands under his arms, before detaching them, and aiming his arm cannons into the hole, as they began glowing. "The hell is that? What are you doing up there? Wait, now I see a light," 15 said, as he began flying out of the hole. "Go towards it, hell flash," Jibo shouted, firing his attack, just as 15 reached the top of the hole. "Ah, you mothering by," 15 exclaimed before being cut off as he was consumed by the blast. When Jibo stopped his blasts, he saw the destroyed remains of Android 15. Seeing his opponent was dealt with, 16 reattached his hands and flew off to assist his friend in dealing with 13. With Naruto. Alec gunfire, Naruto shouted, before firing his attack at 13, who retaliated by firing his own energy blast, resulting in a beam struggle. Naruto had the advantage, thanks to his unlimited energy, along with no worry of actually dying, plus the Zen case he's gotten from 13's previous attacks. But that didn't mean he also had unlimited stamina, and was starting to feel the effects of the long and intense battle. Seeing the beams were still pushing back and forth between each other, Naruto immediately cut off his attack, before quickly dodging out of the way of 13's attack, while speeding behind the android, and blasting him in the back, with 13 crying out as he launched back. Growling, 13 turned around and prepared to attack Naruto again, only to pause when he felt something wrong. Putting a hand on his head, 13 scowled when he saw that his hat was gone. Yapum Dungon Dagon did it now, Son 13 shouted before rushing at Naruto and kneeing him in the stomach, before slamming his clasped hands down on the Saiyan android's back, sending him crashing into the ground. Grunting at the impact, Naruto stood up as 13 landed across from him. Though before they could re-engage each other, Lapis and Lazuli landed beside Naruto. "Hey, we dealt the knockoff, and figured you could use some help against the redneck," Lazuli said. "The two destroyed 14 well now, isn't that mighty impressive? I tip my hat to you, but I lost to 13 shouted, still angry over the loss of his hat. Android 15 has also been dealt with," Jibo said while landing beside his comrades. "Wait, both 14 and 15 are destroyed good," 13 said while smirking wickedly before he let out a shout as he was surrounded by green Kai, as the computer chips and energy reactors from both 14 and 15 left their destroyed remains and flew towards 13. 13 shouted loudly as the computer chips entered his head and the energy reactors enter his chest. Once the pieces were properly assimilated, 13 began growing in size, as his skin turned dark blue, his hair spiked up and turned orange, and his eyes turned pure yellow. "Hey, look, he turned into a roided-out smear," Lapis said, only to be cut off as he shouted in pain when 13 appeared in front of him, grabbing the younger android and slamming his head into the ground, before flying off with Lapis in his hand. Lapis Lazuli shouted in worry for her brother. 13 soon flew up into the air, and began spinning around, swinging Lapis as he did so. After a few moments, 13 immediately threw Lapis straight into Jibo, who had flown up to save Lapis, with the ginger android managing to grab his friend. But this also left him open, as 13 fired a powerful and massive Kai blast at them, sending them crashing straight back into the ground. The upgraded android then turned as Naruto flew at him, unleashing several punches and kicks at 13, only for them to have no effect. 13 then grabbed Naruto by his head, before placing his hand on his chest, and firing another Kai blast that shot right through Naruto, making the Saiyan android gasp in pain, before being tossed aside. Lazuli flew up and held her hand out, forming a yellow Kai sphere, before firing it as an energy wave at 13, only for the android to raise his hand and block the attack. Grinning sadistically, 13 appeared in front of Lazuli and wrapped a hand around her throat, with Lazuli gasping for air, as she was being choked. Flying back to the ground, 13 looked, and saw that both 16 and Lapis were knocked out, but made no move to finish them. As before it was destroyed, Jiro's computer had been able to implant orders into the defective android's head, with one of them being to only incapacitate the rogue androids, and not kill them. Lapis and Lazuli, because they were needed to be absorbed by Cell 22, literally couldn't die, for obvious reasons, while 16 was due to being modeled after the doctor's son. So, rather than kill the androids, 13 was simply going to incapacitate them, as he tightened his grip on Lazuli's neck to knock her out, as well. Though suddenly, 13 was tackled by an enraged Naruto, resulting in Lazuli being released, and be able to breathe. While Naruto slammed 13 into the ground and began beating him relentlessly. "Don't you dare touch her," Naruto shouted, angry at seeing 13 choke Lazuli, even angrier than when he attacked Lapis and Jibo, and swore he'd make 13 pay for touching her. Grabbing 13 by his hair, Naruto threw him into the air, before cupping his hands behind him. "Kamehameha!" Naruto yelled, while firing the blue beam of energy at 13, pouring all his power and anger into it. Unfortunately, 13 proved stronger and more durable, as he flew into the attack, smashing his fist into Naruto's head, knocking him into the ground. With Naruto grunted in pain, as 13 stomped his foot on his back repeatedly, pushing him deeper into the ground, before aiming his hand at the Saiyan android, intent to vaporize him. While it wouldn't kill him, it'd certainly take a while for Naruto to regenerate from most of his body being destroyed. Though before he could, Lazuli sped behind him, and swung her leg against 13's head, knocking him away. "Leave him alone," Lazuli shouted while glaring at 13 before firing another Kai blast at the other android, knocking him down. Standing up, Naruto looked at Lazuli, thankful for her arrival, and glad to see she was alright. With Lazuli also being glad to see that Naruto had recovered from 13's attacks. The two's attention then turned back to 13, seeing him get back up, annoying them that the android just wouldn't die. "Together?" Lazuli asked while looking at Naruto. "Together," Naruto replied, holding his hand behind him, while Lazuli aimed her hands at 13. "Alec gunfire!" Naruto shouted. "Dead end rain!" Lazuli said. The two fired their attacks, as they combined together into a large double spiral that impacted 13, soon consuming the large android. 13 crying out as the attack consumed his entire body, with it soon breaking apart as it was consumed by the attack. Naruto and Lazuli stopped their attacks and looked to see if 13 somehow managed to survive, only to be glad they didn't see any sign of the android, aside from some scattered remains of the android. Relieved that all their enemies were now destroyed, Naruto turned and smiled at Lazuli. But before he could say anything, the Saiyan android was surprised when Lazuli suddenly pressed her lips against his surprise only growing when Lazuli shoved her tongue into his mouth. Though despite his surprise at the sudden action, along confusion of what it was, Naruto couldn't deny that he enjoyed how soft Lazuli's lips were. But just as quickly, Lazuli pulled back with both androids blushing in embarrassment of her action. Sorry, Lazuli said, not sure what came over her, just that with 13 finally gone and they were safe, she just acted and kissed Naruto. It's fine, really. I actually really liked it. Was it a kiss? Naruto asked, remembering when she kissed him on the cheek, after coming out of his pod, while Lazuli was relieved that he didn't freak out, and pleased that he enjoyed it. Yeah, it was. That was called a French kiss, where you kiss someone on the mouth and use your tongue. That was actually my first kiss. Lazuli revealed. Even before Jiro found them, she and her brother had been delinquents, which didn't really give her much time to find a guy she was interested in. Your first kiss? Naruto asked, curious of what that meant. Yeah, my first kiss. It's actually something special for a girl, and usually saved for someone they really care about. Lazuli answered, smiling at Naruto, while he looked at her in surprise, and blushing again, at hearing how important a first kiss is. Ooh, sorry. Two didn't mean to take your first kiss. Naruto said, worried she'd be upset at losing her first kiss to him. Only for Lazuli to place a hand on his cheek, and smile at him. Don't be, if I had to give it to anyone, I'm glad it was you, Naruto. Lazuli said, surprising Naruto again before he smiled at her. Unfortunately, the moment was ruined when they heard a raspy voice. Ah, how sweet. I almost hate to ruin the moment between you lovebirds. Cell said, standing over the unconscious Lapis and Jibo, having seen his chance to absorb the androids, and refused to lose it. Naruto and Lazuli's head snapped towards Cell, looking at him with wide eyes, wondering what he was. Only to be shocked when his tail opened up and aimed at Lapis, making them realize what he was about to do. No, Naruto shouted, about to run forward and stop Cell. But he was too late, as Cell's tail engulfed Lapis, and began eating him up into Cell's body. With Naruto and Lazuli being shocked and horrified at seeing Lapis be absorbed. Cell gave a raspy laughter, as he began glowing brightly, before he gave a loud shout, as his power skyrocketed. The dramatic increase in power, accompanied by his body transforming, becoming more of a cross between a human and a bug, along with his voice deepening. When the light faded, it revealed Cell in his new form, as he laughed wickedly, and looked himself over. So this is my semi-perfect form. Interesting. Cell said, smirking as he felt that his power had grown immensely. Cell then turned his attention towards the frozen Naruto and Lazuli, as he held his tail up. Now for you, 18. Cell stated, wanting to absorb her as well so he can reach his perfection. Though his words seemed to snap Naruto out of his shock, as he felt his anger rising. Not only at the fact that thing creature absorbed his friend, but now it was going to do the same to Lazuli. Naruto roared, before shooting towards Cell, as his dark orange kai burst into a bright gold color, with his black hair turning the same gold color, while his eyes burned with green fire. The bio-android was surprised at seeing Naruto's sudden transformation into a Super Saiyan, leaving him open to Naruto slamming his fist into his face. Only for Cell to smirk when he didn't budge, as Naruto glared at him. It seems I've gotten stronger than I imagined. Cell stated, swinging his arm at Naruto, who blocked the strike, only to grunt in pain, as he was sent skidding back. Kamehameha, shouted Naruto, firing the blast at Cell, with the bio-android meeting Naruto's Kamehameha with his own. Naruto shouted as he poured all his energy into the attack, but despite that Cell's attack was starting to overpower his own. Given Naruto was still feeling tired and weakened from his fight against 13, and while his body was fully healed, he hadn't fully rested. Gritting his teeth, Naruto looked at the frozen Lazuli and unconscious Jibo. While he wants to avenge Lapis, he also couldn't risk the same thing happening to Lazuli, as well. With that thought, Naruto, solar flare, Naruto said, as a bright flash of a light blinded Cell, who cried out and covered his eyes. Seeing the creature was temporarily blinded, Naruto quickly grabbed the unconscious Jibo, and ran over to Lazuli. Lazuli, we have to go, now, Naruto said, snapping her out of her shock, as she nodded shakily, before the two quickly flew off, carrying Jibo as they did. The lookout. Meanwhile, on the lookout, Goku, Gohan, and Piccolo's heads snapped in the direction of where Cell was, with their eyes wide open, as they felt the boost in power the bio-android gained. He's absorbed one of the androids. He's become this powerful from just one of them. Piccolo said, not believing the power Cells gained after absorbing one android. He didn't even want to think of how powerful he'll become if he absorbed both of them. Trunks, Vegeta, you both need to hurry. Goku muttered, knowing they had to act fast or else Cell could potentially become too powerful for them to stop. Game House. At Game House, Tien, Yamcha, Rashi and Xiaozu lit to where they sensed Cell's power and were shocked at how high it went up. Guys, that was Cell, wasn't it? Yamcha said, clenching his fists to keep himself from shaking at the power Cell gained. He absorbed one of the androids, didn't he? Xiaozu stated in worry. Yeah, and with the power he's gained, he can just as easily absorb the second one, Tien said, gravely. Looking at Yamcha, the two fighters nodded, knowing what they had to do, as they flew off. While they knew they didn't stand a chance against Cell now, they also couldn't allow the bio-android to absorb the second android, and becoming potentially unstoppable. The best they could do, is hope to hold off Cell long enough for the androids to escape, while giving Goku and the others more time to arrive. Jiro's lab. Meanwhile within Jiro's sublab, the container that the present Cell was in, shattered as Imperfect Cell breathed heavily, now fully matured, thanks to the emergency protocols. Though Imperfect Cell looked up, when he sensed Semi-Perfect Cell's boost in power, and sensing how similar the Kai was to his own. It didn't take long, until Imperfect Cell growled in annoyance at realizing what was happening, and was annoyed that his prey was already being targeted. But despite that, Imperfect Cell decided to still investigate and find out what was going on. After all, if this is an alternate version of me, possibly from another reality or another timeline, then that must mean he had a way to travel here. Which means, I'll also have a means to find another version of 17 and 18. Imperfect Cell thought as he ran off, refusing to give up on his chance to reach his perfection. And once he's achieved his perfect form, he'll deal with this alternate version of himself. After all, there's only room for one perfect being in the universe. After Cell's arrival and absorbing Lapis, Naruto and Lazuli quickly grabbed Jibo to make their escape. As even with Naruto transforming into a Super Saiyan, he wasn't a match for the bio-android. With the two flying away as quickly as they could, eventually landing in a forest, with the three hiding amongst the trees, and suppressing their power. Peeking out from their hiding spot, Naruto and Lazuli tensed when they saw Cell flying high up in the air above the forest. 1822 Where are you? Cell shouted, looking throughout the forest, trying to find where the other androids were hiding themselves. He can't sense our Kai. Naruto whispered, just in case Cell was able to hear them. Yeah, but how long until he manages to find us? Lazuli said, internally freaking out at Cell finding them, and that he was going to do the same thing to her that he did to her brother. We just have to wait until he's distracted before making a break for it. We can't fly, otherwise he'll see us, Naruto said. The two then tensed, when they saw Cell unleash a Kai blast, destroying a good portion of the forest. You can run as long as you like, but I will find you, Cell shouted, while launching another Kai blast into the forest, knowing eventually, he'll flush them out from wherever they're hiding, and when he does, he'll absorb 18 to reach his perfection. This made the two curse, knowing they had to think of something or else Cell will find them. Though suddenly, Naruto and Cell all felt two Kai signatures appear near them, as Tien and Yamcha flew into the air above Cell. Solar Flare, Tien shouted, blinding Cell as the bio-android cried out from being blinded again. Wolf Fang Fist, Yamcha said, rushing Cell while he was blinded, and unleashed a fury of punches and swipes at the android, before finishing with a double palm strike that sent Cell back. Androids, I don't know where you are, but if you can hear me, get out of here now, Tien shouted, knowing he and Yamcha needed to bide the android's time to escape and prevent Cell from absorbing the second one. While surprised at their arrival and that they were helping them escape, Naruto and Lazuli looked at each other before nodding. Grabbing Jibo, the two quickly flew off as fast as they could, wanting to get as much distance between them and Cell as they could. You aren't getting away from me, Cell yelled, shaking off the attacks, as his vision returned to see his prey escaping. But before he could chase after them, Tien appeared in front of him. Loading Ray, Tien said, firing the finger beam straight through Cell's head, with the bio-android crying at the attack, before Tien delivered a spin kick to his head. Spirit Ball, Yamcha said, launching the ball of Kai at Cell, while guiding it with his index and middle fingers, to come back and keep hitting him, finally having the ball drop right down on the android and explode. Flying across from each other, Tien and Yamcha then got into identical stances, and began charging their Kai. Kamehameha, Tien and Yamcha shouted, firing off twin Kamehamehas at where Cell was, with the two attacks meeting right in the middle, with Cell trapped between them. The two fighters kept pushing energy into their attacks, before finally stopping, as they looked into the smoke. Think we got him? Yamcha asked, hoping that was enough to put Cell out of commission, for a while. Maybe, but just Habahin, Tien shouted when he saw Cell, who was perfectly fine from their attacks, appear behind Yamcha. Before the former bandit could react, Cell wrapped his hand around his throat. Oh, you got something alright. All my attention's now on you. Cell growled, before jabbing his stinger into Yamcha's neck, making him cry out in pain. No, Yamcha, Tien screamed in horror as Cell absorbed Yamcha into him, with his clothes falling to the ground when he was completely absorbed. Now for you, Tien. Cell said sinisterly as Tien looked frozen in place at what just happened before his shock turned to anger and glared at Cell. "Yeah, you bastard, I'm going to wipe from existence." Here and now, Tian shouted, before flying into the air and clasped his hands together, before placing his fingertips together, as Cell scoffed and smirked at him. "You wiped me from existence with your power level. You're no android, you're no Namekian, and you're certainly no Super Saiyan, you're just a human," Cell said, smirking as Tian's anger grew at his taunting, but knew he was right, and that this likely wouldn't be enough to kill him. "Yeah, well, you know what power level Super Saiyans," and Tian shouted as he zoomed in on Cell through his hands, swearing that if this doesn't kill him, he'll make sure that Cell won't be getting up anytime soon. "Shin Kikl," shouted Tian, firing one of his strongest attacks at the bio-android. "Oh, that's Avarashi," Cell screamed as he was hit by the attack, the force of the blast creating a large square-shaped hole in the ground. "Those androids better be gone," Tian thought as Cell came flying out of the hole. "Upstart Tricklet," Cell shouted, enraged at the attack. "Kikl," Tian said, firing another blast, returning Cell back to the hole. "Goddamn," Cell screamed before descending into incoherent blubbering. But Tian wasn't done yet as he continued firing kicking after kicking. "Kikl, Kikl, 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 Kikl." Tian finally stopped bombarding Cell with his attack, as he could hear the bio-android panting in the hole. "Are you done?" Cell demanded, wanting to know if he was just going to end being blasted again. "Because I'm coming out, and I swear to whatever god there is, if you do that again he will be so freaking nettled," Cell screamed as he started flying out of the hole. "Kicking," Tian stated, firing off another blast at Cell. "Oh, damn it," Cell shouted as he was blasted into another square-shaped hole. Tian panted as he was starting to feel the effects of using that many kickings before he crashed into the ground, unable to maintain flying. With Cell soon flying out of the crater, looking only a little damaged from the attacks and being angrier than ever. "You know, if you want my personal opinion, kicking is a pretty sad choice of last words. But to be fair, it's far from the worst decision you've made today," Cell growled, angered not only by the constant attacks, but by now 22 and 18 have probably managed to escape, and could be anywhere by now. Tian grunted as he looked up at Cell, refusing to show fear in the face of his inevitable, and very likely permanent, death. "Kako yourself," Tian muttered, grunting as Cell stabbed his stinger into his back. "See, now that's the spirit," Cell said before absorbing the tricklops as well. "Now what's this? The hyperbolic time chamber, and Goku, Piccolo, Gohan, Trunks, and Vegeta are using it," Cell said to himself, looking through Yamcha and Tian's memories, and saw what they were planning. Part of Cell was worried about this new detail, and considered going to the lookout to kill them and destroy the chamber. Before shaking his head and smirked. "It doesn't matter. Let them have their precious 1 year of training. Once I absorb 18 and reach my perfect form, no amount of training will make them a match for me," said Cell, confident that when he reaches his true power, no amount of training could stop him, before flying into the air and flew away, knowing he needed a new plan to find the other androids. Though unknown to Cell, Imperfect Cell had followed the shockwaves of the fight in Kai's signatures, having watched the fight, and heard his counterparts pondering on the hyperbolic time chamber. Hyperbolic time chamber, and if I took a guess, 1 day in the real world is 1 year in the chamber. Interesting. Imperfect Cell thought, wondering how he could use this his advantage. He then quickly flew off, following his stronger counterpart, and remaining in his shadow, allowing his power to hide his own from being detected, along with allowing Imperfect Cell to remain close by, and hope for a chance to learn of where he can get his own 17 and 18. "The lookout. Damn it," Piccolo muttered, clenching his fists as he, Goku and Gohan sensed Yamcha and Tian's energy vanish, showing they were gone, as well. "Tian, Yamcha," Gohan said, punching the ground, angry that more of their friends are dead and he couldn't do anything to help. "We need to hurry, we really need to hurry," Goku said, knowing that every wasted second meant even more people could die, thanks to Cell. The three considered doing their own training, both to get a head start and take their minds off what's happening, until Vegeta and Trunks came out of the time chamber. Though they dismissed the idea soon after, knowing that when it was their turn in the chamber, they couldn't waste a second resting, if they became tired. Even if they had a year inside the chamber, they refused to waste a second of it by tiring themselves out by training outside. "Goku, Gohan, Piccolo," Korin said, walking up to the three, getting their attention. "Korin, what are you doing here?" Goku asked, only to catch a bag that Korin tossed at them, filled with senzu beans. "Mr. Popos filled me in on what's happening. I managed to get a batch of senzu beans for you to use, so you can get some training in before it's your turn to enter the time chamber," Korin answered, knowing they needed as many senzu beans as he could give them, especially with the Dragon Balls gone. "Thank you," Goku said, grateful for the assistance. "Come on, there's a room in the lookout that we can use, without worry of holding back," Piccolo said, knowing now they could train as much as they waited, and didn't have to worry about exhausting themselves. Nodding, the three entered the lookout, wanting to get as much training done as they could. With Naruto, Lazuli, and Jibo. Naruto and Lazuli sighed in relief as they landed on a remote island, having flown as fast. Thankfully though, after some time, they managed to escape Cell, eventually arriving at a group of islands, with the androids landing on one that Naruto couldn't sense any living creatures on. Arriving at a cave, Naruto and Lazuli placed Jibo against the wall, before sitting down next to each other. "We finally escaped, thank goodness," Lazuli said, relieved they succeeded in escaping Cell. "Yeah, but I doubt he's going to give up that easily. Well, those two managed to give us time to escape, that thing's likely trying to find us, right now," Naruto said, knowing that even if they were able to get away now, they couldn't relax, knowing Cell will keep coming after them. His words made Lazuli shiver, knowing they were true, given how that thing evolved after absorbing her brother. And now he's coming after her as well, likely to gain another evolution to grow even stronger. She then looked at Naruto when he put a hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry, I won't let that thing touch you, or even get near you," Naruto said, refusing to let Cell absorb Lazuli like he did to Lapis. "You could sense how strong that thing became. I can't even sense energy and could feel how strong it became. You can't fight something like that," Lazuli said, not believing Cell could be defeated with how strong he was. "Maybe, but I can't die. He can bring me close to it, again and again, and I'll keep coming back even stronger, until I can kill that thing," Naruto said, knowing with each fatal wound, he'll come back stronger, eventually being able to kill Cell. "You can't do that. You may be immortal, but you still have limits," Lazuli argued, given the fight against the defective androids showed that while Naruto couldn't die, he could still be tired out and taken down. "As long as you're safe, I don't care what I have to do," Naruto stated, with Lazuli looking surprised at his words before sighing, doubting she'd be able to talk him out of it. Naruto was surprised when Lazuli rested her head on his shoulder and curled up next to him. "What are you?" Naruto said, only for 18 to cut him off. "Don't talk, just hold me," Lazuli said, not wanting to say anything, and just feel safe. While surprised at her action, Naruto nodded and wrapped an arm around Lazuli, holding her close, and swearing to do whatever he can to keep her safe. With semi-perfect Cell. Meanwhile, Cell had returned to the site of the fight between the androids, and looked around for what he was searching for. Spotting it, Cell smirked, and flew over to the remains of Super Android 13. 13, you may have been a defective failure, but you still have your uses, such as being capable of tracking where 16, 18, and 22 are, Cell said, as he began removing pieces from 13's body to build something to let him track his targets. Thankfully, Jiro felt the need to implant technological knowledge into Cell's mind, making it much easier for him to build what he needed. Time skip and day. With Naruto, Lazuli, and Jibo. The next morning, Naruto and Lazuli woke up, only to be surprised to see that they were now lying on the cave floor. And, to their embarrassment, they were also cuddling next to each other. "Good morning," Lazuli said, blushing in embarrassment that her head was now on Naruto's chest. "Hi," Naruto said while looking at her. "Hello," Jibo said, with Naruto and Lazuli's eyes widening, before quickly jumping away from each other, while looking at the tall android. "Jibo, how long have you been awake?" Lazuli asked, mentally hoping it wasn't long. "I have been awake for almost 10 minutes. I would have woken you both as well, but you looked comfortable the way you were," Jibo answered before looking around to see where 17 was, but didn't see him. "Where's Lapis?" Jibo asked, wondering where he was, with Naruto and Lazuli looking down at the reminder. "He's gone," Lazuli said before they began explaining what happened, much to his shock, horror, and sadness. "I see. It seems that Cell has matured faster than I believed," Jibo said, with Naruto and Lazuli looking at him in confusion. Cell questioned Naruto. "The creature you encountered, his name is Cell. A bio-android created by Dr. Jiro, from the DNA of his fighters and their enemies, such as Frieza and King Cold. He was created to become the perfect being, and to do that, he needed to absorb both 17 and 18. Though my records showed that he was nowhere near fully grown. I believe, perhaps, an emergency protocol could have been activated, with the destruction of the lab, speeding up his growth," Jibo explained. "Great, like we needed another reason to hate that old bastard." Lazuli muttered, angry that Jiro not only kidnapped her and her brother, so he could turn them into androids, but it was just so they could be absorbed by Cell. "Well, we should get moving, before Cell shows up and tries finding us again," Naruto said, with 18 and 16 nodding in agreement. But before they could go, Naruto and Jibo tensed as their eyes widened when they sensed Cell flying right towards them. "You sense him coming, don't you?" 18 stated. "Yes, and it seems that he has likely found a way to track us as well. Running is no longer an option," Jibo said, knowing they couldn't run anymore if Cell was capable of tracking them somehow. "Okay then, no more running. I'm gonna smash that bug. Both of you stay here," Naruto said, flying out of the cave and into the sky, where Cell soon arrived, and stopped in front of him. 22, what a surprise. I expected you three to try running again, but this just makes this easier. Now, are you going to stand aside or will you try and fight me? Cell asked, with Naruto smirking. "Fight, you know, I'm gonna kill you," Naruto stated before transforming into a Super Saiyan and vanishing in a burst speed, reappearing behind Cell, much to the bio-android's shock, with Naruto slamming his fist into Cell's head, sending him flying to the ground. Cell grunted in pain as he impacted the island, before quickly getting up and managed to block Naruto's punch in time and swing his tail at the Saiyan android, with Naruto ducking under the swing while grabbing hold of Cell's tail. Smirking, Naruto began swinging Cell around, with the creature screaming the entire time before Naruto slammed him into the ground, before lifting him and slamming him into the ground again and again, with Cell screaming in pain as he was slammed repeatedly into the ground. Given that Naruto was now fully rested from his previous fight, he was able to go against Cell more evenly and is taking fully advantage of it. Finally, Naruto swings Cell around before launching him straight into a boulder, with the bio-android crashing through it, grunting in pain. Getting up, Cell growled in anger, before sending a barrage of death beams at Naruto, who made no effort to dodge the attacks, letting them shoot through his body. Seeing this made Cell's eyes widen in remembrance, realizing what Naruto was doing, and quickly stopped firing the beams. But it was too late, as Naruto was filled with dozens of fatal injuries that quickly sealed up, as his power increased thanks to the Zenkai boost. The bio-android then gasped in pain, as Naruto once again blitzed him, burying his knee into Cell's stomach, with Cell growling as his tail wrapped around Naruto's leg, knocking him off balance. Taking advantage of this, Cell wrapped his arms around Naruto and suplexed him into the ground, with the bio-android not stopping there, as he grabbed Naruto by the leg and threw him into the air, before flying after him and punching Naruto higher and higher. When they were high enough into the air, Cell delivered a spin kick, knocking Naruto to the side. Creating a death saucer, Cell threw the attack, this time aiming to incapacitate Naruto, rather than kill him, as that'd only make him stronger. Only for Naruto to move and allow the disc to cut through his neck, decapitating him, with his head immediately reattaching itself, as he gained another power boost. Flying towards Cell, Naruto grabbed him in a headlock, and began punching him repeatedly in the chest, along with absorbing his energy, as well. Naruto then spun around in the air, before throwing Cell back down to the island. Kamehameha, Naruto shouted, firing the Kai blast at Cell, who crashed into the island, before quickly standing up and firing off his own blast. Seeing this, Naruto smirked, and instantly stopped his attack, allowing Cell's own to charge towards him, consuming his entire body. Damn it, Cell thought, immediately stopping his attack, but could see that Naruto's upper body was already destroyed, only to just as quickly regenerate itself, as he gained yet another Zenkai boost. Naruto then vanished in a burst of speed, moving behind Cell, and slamming his head into the ground. You're gonna pay for what you did, Cell, Naruto said, planning to make the bio-android suffer before finding a way to get Lapis out of him, then finally killing the bug. But before Naruto could continue attacking Cell, he grunted in pain when someone slammed into him, launching him into a cliffside. Looking, Naruto scowled when he saw Vegeta standing there, smirking wickedly, in his Super Saiyan form, while looking more buff. Vegeta, I don't have time for you, Naruto said, not wanting to deal with the egotistical Saiyan. That's perfectly fine, it won't take long for me to tear you apart. Then moving on to the other pieces of scrap, Vegeta said, planning to kill Naruto first and then deal with the other androids. Hearing the threat against his friends, Naruto growled in anger, before rushing the Saiyan Prince, only for Vegeta to sidestep the attack, and slam his knee into Naruto's stomach, making him double over in pain, and cough up blood, shocked at the power behind the blow. Vegeta didn't stop there as he began to mercilessly beat Naruto into a pulp, savoring taking his revenge for his previous humiliation. While off to the side, Cell stood up, having recovered from Naruto's attacks, and saw what was happening and smirked. He could take the opportunity to go and absorb 18, with 22 now distracted. But Cell didn't want to take the chance of him being stopped, so would deal with Naruto, first then absorb 18. Cell then saw Vegeta throw Naruto into the air, the bio-android flying up after him, smashing his elbow into his back, launching him back to the ground. Vegeta uppercutting Naruto when he was close enough, before grabbing by his neck and flying up into the air, going past Cell as they went high up. After a few moments, Vegeta stopped, and then threw Naruto back to the ground, before getting into his stance, when that Cell mirrored below them. Alec on fire, Vegeta and Cell shouted, firing the two Kai blasts right at Naruto. When the two attacks hit, Naruto cried out in pain as his body was being ripped apart and healing rapidly, as he was unable to move from being trapped between the two beams. Eventually, the two stopped their attacks, as Naruto fell out of the sky, crashing onto the island, with Vegeta landing in front of him, smirking down at him. Let this be a lesson, android, a true Saiyan will always best to fake like you, Vegeta said, before kicking Naruto into the ocean, watching in satisfaction, as he sunk beneath the water. I must say, Vegeta, your help is a surprise, but also will cause Cell gasped when Vegeta buried his fist in his stomach. You misunderstand, android, I didn't help you. I was merely showing that fake his place, with him out of the way, you're next, Vegeta said while smirking as Trunks soon arrived and saw his father attacking Cell, much to his relief that he was dealing with the current threat. Father, do you need any help? Trunks asked, in case Vegeta couldn't handle Cell on his own. Stay out this, boy, this will take even less time than it did with the fake. Vegeta shouted, with Trunks frowning at this, knowing he was likely talking about 22, but nodded slowly and remained where he was. Naruto lazily screamed, ignoring Jibo trying to stop her while running out of the cave, and looked around for Naruto, but didn't see him anywhere. Wait your turn, you tin can, the bug comes first, Vegeta said before punching Cell, knocking him back. Well, with Vegeta now, hold on a moment, let's talk about this. Would you really be satisfied beating me in my second form? Cell asked, hoping to get Vegeta to stop long enough so he could absorb 18. What are you talking about? Vegeta demanded, with Cell smirking as he had his attention. That's right, what you see now is only my semi-perfect form after I absorb Android 17. I'm not yet complete until I absorb Android 18 as well and reach my perfect form. Tell me, Vegeta, would you really be satisfied beating me now, never knowing how you could have fared against me at my True Power Cell challenge, while playing on Vegeta's pride? Father, don't listen to him, Trunks said, knowing they couldn't let Cell reach his true power. Shut it, boy, and how strong would you be in this perfect form? Vegeta demanded. Vegeta, I would have crushed you without a second thought, Cell stated, knowing he had Vegeta right where he wanted him now. Really, in that case, take the android, and I'll be more than willing to prove you wrong, Vegeta said, crossing his arms wanting to get a proper challenge. What, father, you can't be serious about letting him do this? Krillin, Yamcha and Tien have died, just we could stop him, Trunks said, not believe his father was actually doing this. And why should I care about what happened to those weaklings? They shouldn't have interfered and have now paid the price for it, Vegeta retorted apathetically, not caring how many weaklings die, as long as he got the challenge he wanted. Trunks looked at Vegeta in shock and rage at how uncaring he was, or that he was willing to let Cell become even stronger than he already was. The half-scene's attention then turned to Cell, who had gone to make a move for 18, while everyone was distracted. Seeing this, Trunks quickly flew over and slammed his leg into Cell's head, knocking him to the side. You aren't touching her, Cell, Trunks shouted, refusing to let Cell become even stronger, as Lazuli was snapped out of her shock at his assistance. Thanks, Lazuli said, with Trunks looking at her neutrally. Don't thank me, I'm only making sure a bigger monster isn't created. Once he's dealt with, all bets are off, Trunks said, with Lazuli nodding as she and Jibo stood beside Trunks. You regret interfering, boy, Vegeta said as Cell got up and the two stood across from the two androids in half-scene. Trunks didn't say anything as he charged Vegeta, while Lazuli and Jibo went against Cell. With the fights being pretty even, with Trunks' power being equal to Vegeta's, while Cell was still weakened from fighting Naruto and the energy he absorbed from him, giving Lazuli and Jibo an advantage. But while the three were able to put a good fight, none of them were able to sense the presence of imperfect Cell nearby watching the fight. They might actually be able to kill the other me. And while I'd love nothing more than to watch him die, I still need information to find another 17 and 18. Imperfect Cell thought, making sure he was hidden from view, before firing several Kai blasts at Trunks, Lazuli, and Jibo, getting their attention. Where did those? Trunks said, confused at where the blasts came from. Solar Flare, Cell shouted, taking advantage of everyone's confusion and focus being away from him. Everyone cried out, as they were blinded by the bright light. 18, get out of here, run now, Trunks shouted, sensing Cell moving towards 18. People, look out for Naruto for me, Lazuli said, knowing she wouldn't get far. Lazuli, Jibo said, wanting to help her, but couldn't see what was happening. Meanwhile, deep under the ocean, Naruto laid at the bottom of the water, being crushed by the water pressure. With the pressure also making it so his body was in a constant state of Zenkai boosts, as he was crushed by the water pressure, and then healed with the cycle repeating the longer he was underwater. Naruto's eyes immediately snapped open when he heard Trunks and Jibo shout to Lazuli. Not a moment later, Naruto burst out of the water, his power now higher than ever, now being in full-powered Super Saiyan. Unfortunately, Naruto wasn't fast enough to stop what happened next. Cell grinned sinisterly as he rushed towards Lazuli, his stinger opening up and engulfed her, with the female android letting out a loud scream as she was absorbed. Naruto's eyes widened in shock and horror at seeing Lazuli getting absorbed, just like how Lapis was. While inside him, something snapped as Naruto's body was flooded with pure rage. Naruto's shout of rage could be heard all across the land, as his power continued climbing higher, higher, and higher, as he gained bioelectricity, while his aura became more flame-like, and jagged in appearance, and his hair became spiker than before. When Naruto finally stopped shouting, he glared darkly at everyone around him before settling on Vegeta. Knowing that between him and Cell, he was the one that was the most at fault for Lazuli being absorbed by the bio-android due to his interference. With a roar, Naruto charged Vegeta, grabbing him his head and threw him into a cliffside, embedding the Saiyan into it. Big Bang Kamehameha, Naruto screamed, combing the Big Bang attack and Kamehameha together, firing the large and destructive wave at Vegeta. Vegeta had no time to dodge or block the blast, as it impacted him and blasted right through the cliff, obliterating the Saiyan Prince. Trunks looked on in horror at what he just saw, and the power Naruto was putting out. Father Wat, did you just help unleash Trunks' thought, believing that Vegeta just helped create something even worse than Cell and the androids of his time? Not seeing or sensing Vegeta, Naruto's attention turned towards Cell, now in his true perfect form, as the bio-android clapped and smirked. My 22, that was quite impressive. I could practically feel that. Now if you're done with the little tantrum, how about you, Cell said, only to be cut off when Naruto suddenly appeared in front of him and wrapped a hand around his throat. Shut up, Naruto said darkly, before slamming Cell into the island, causing a mini earthquake. Trunks took this as his cue to leave, knowing he had to go and tell the others what happened. Naruto didn't give the retreating Trunks a glance, as he grabbed Cell by one of the protrusions on his head, and lifted him up, while smirking sadistically. Tell me, perfect being, how will you like me to give you the perfect death? Naruto said, placing his hand against Cell's chest before blasting a hole right through the bio-android, only for the hole to close up, making Naruto grin wickedly at seeing that Cell can regenerate as well. Tossing Cell out over the ocean, Naruto reappeared in front of Cell, spin-kicking him off to the side. Once reappearing in front of his path, Naruto proceeded to repeatedly knock Cell around the air, as if he were playing a game of pinball. With Cell being the ball, he could repeatedly break since he would just heal. Eventually though, Naruto stopped and kicked Cell straight into the air, flying ahead of him, as he did so. Big Bang attack, Naruto shouted, firing the large kite ball at Cell, the bio-android crying out as he immediately blasted back down to the island, where he crashed into a giant crater, with Naruto floating in front of him, seeing that Cell looked to be on the verge of unconsciousness. No, don't pass out yet. I'm not done ripping your wings off, butterfly, Naruto said before frowning when Cell started laughing and stood up as his injuries healed. Hahaha, I must say, that was quite impressive. I didn't think I was capable of feeling pain anymore, but you proved me wrong, 22. I'm actually glad there wasn't a version of you in my timeline. Cell said with Naruto narrowing his eyes at this, while the imperfect Cell perked up and began eagerly listening for the information he desires. What the hell are you talking about? Naruto demanded, his curiosity outweighing his desire to kill Cell. A little history lesson then. I come from an alternate timeline, the same being for Trunks, but we're not from the same timeline, but they are quite similar up to a point. You see, in my timeline, Trunks succeeded in killing androids 17 and 18, who ravaged the Earth, and killed his fighters, except Goku, who died from a heart virus. I won't bore you with the details, as I'm sure we both have better things to do, but it was after Trunks killed 17 and 18, that I came into the picture. You see, Trunks and his mother created a time machine, so he could go back in time to save Goku from dying, and stop the androids from arriving, thus saving his future. But here's a fun fact: multiverse theories . Cell said, while smirking at the Saiyan android. He created an alternate timeline. Naruto said while frowning as he realized what had happened and why he exists when he apparently didn't in Cell's or Trunks' timeline. Nailed it, yes, Trunks created an alternate timeline, creating the present we're now in. I come from even further than Trunks did, where he somehow succeeded in killing the androids. He planned to come back to the past to inform the others of his victory, but he made one crucial mistake: he stole from me. So, I killed Trunks and used his time machine to travel 3 years into the past, from today, having reverted to my larvae stage, to fit in the time machine. And now here we are, the perfect being, and the Saiyan android that didn't originally exist. Cell concluded. And that's exactly what I needed. Imperfect Cell thought, having what he needed to get another 17 and 18, and he needed to get Trunks' time machine to do so. With his plan now decided, Imperfect Cell jumped into the water, to avoid being seen by the combatants. Now, all I have to do is get Trunks' time machine, travel to his time, absorb 17 and 18, perhaps absorb me in that timeline, as well, and maybe use the time chamber there, as well, then come back here and absorb me. Then, I shall truly become the one true perfect being. Imperfect Cell thought, knowing with the power of 2 versions of himself along with 17 and 18, then he'll have reached a level beyond his normal perfection. Imperfect Cell was then pulled from his thoughts when he came face to face with a giant sea dragon. Oh well shit, Imperfect Cell said, as the dragon roared and unleashed a mouth beam. Speeding out of the way, Imperfect Cell appeared on the dragon's back, and stabbed his stinger into it, as he began absorbing the beast. Figuring he'll need to lay low until he gets the chance to steal the time machine, Imperfect Cell might as well take the chance to keep absorbing more energy. And right now, he had a craving for some seafood. Meanwhile, back with Naruto and Perfect Cell, the Saiyan android was shaking in rage. So, you came to this timeline, just to absorb Lapis and Lazuli, my friends, Naruto shouted, while glaring at Cell. Yes, they were merely stepping stones to my perfection, Cell said while shrugging nonchalantly. They were my friends Lapis, Lazuli, and Jibo are my friends. I cared about them. I cared about Lazuli, and you took her. I cared for her, and now that she's gone, I have this painful void in my heart, Naruto said while looking down and gripping his chest as Cell laughed mockingly. I believe the word you're looking for is called love, 22. You loved 18, and it's adorable, Cell said while smirking at the Saiyan android. Love, Naruto said, not knowing what that meant. Yes, love. It means you cared about her as more than a friend, as someone you'd do anything for, do anything to protect, someone you'd go to hell and back for. And now that she's gone, it's the worst pain imaginable, isn't it? Cell said, with Naruto nodding, since seeing Lazuli be absorbed hurt worse than seeing Lapis be absorbed. Yes. It hurts, Naruto muttered. And you only have yourself to blame for that pain. You fell in love with someone that was always destined to be absorbed by me. You're angry at me for doing what I was made to do, when you should be mad at yourself for your own mistake. Cell said, smirking, while Naruto clenched his fists tightly. But hey, if it really means that much to you, you could always steal Trunks' time machine, like I did, and get with the one in his timeline. It's not like I need her anymore. Cell said, laughing, before doubling over in pain when Naruto slammed his fist into his chest. I told you to shut up, Naruto growled before kicking Cell into the air, and resumed his assault on the bio-android. You say get with the android in Trunks' timeline, that wouldn't be Lazuli, that would be nothing but a psychotic killing machine. Lazuli was kind, smart, strong, determined, and nothing like the one Trunks knows. She's the one who woke me up from that damn pod, who cared about me when I was in danger, who taught me about the world, and you took her from me, Naruto shouted, smashing his fist into Cell's face, sending him flying down to the island. Big Bang Kamehameha, Naruto shouted, firing the powerful blast right at Cell, with the bio-android crying out in pure agony. When Naruto stopped the attack, he flew straight at Cell, and sent 2 punches straight into his stomach, with Cell gasping for air before he started heaving. Rolling over onto his hands and knees, Cell coughed and gagged before, to Naruto's shock and relief, the bio-android vomited out both Lazuli and Lapis. Lapis, Lazuli. Naruto said, shocked and relieved beyond measure to see them again, especially Lazuli. No, 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 Cell screamed as he reverted back to his imperfect form, with the loss of the twins, with Naruto turning his attention back to Cell. Don't worry, you'll be dead in a few moments, Naruto said, charging up an energy blast, and preparing to vaporize Cell, so he couldn't get the chance to absorb his friends again. The only ones dying are all of you, Cell shouted, enraged at having his perfection stolen from him, as he began bloating up to trigger his self-destruction protocol. Naruto's eyes widened at this, before looking at Lazuli and Lapis, to see them waking up. Ow, my head. What the hell happened? Lapis groaned. We were eaten by a giant ink bug, that's what. Lazuli said, standing up, before she was pulled into a hug by Naruto. I love you, Naruto said, with Lazuli's eyes widening at his sudden confession. Though before she could reply, Naruto kissed her, surprising Lazuli again. But just as quickly, Naruto pulled back and walked up to Cell, while looking at the expanding bio-android. I don't know if my immortality will be enough to survive this, but as long as he's gone, Naruto thought before creating an energy shield around himself and Cell. Wait, Naruto, don't do it, we'll find another way, Lazuli screamed, seeing what was happening, and knew what was coming. She made to run over and stop him, but was held back by her brother and the recovered Jibo. With Lazuli struggled against them, but they refused to let go, knowing she wouldn't be able to stop Naruto from what he was about to do, and would just get herself killed as well. You're crazy, 22. Cell said, with Naruto looking at the soon-to-explode bio-android. People do crazy things when they're in love, Naruto replied, with an accepting smile. Not a moment later, Cell's body detonated, engulfing both himself and Naruto, seemingly killing them both. No, Lazuli screamed, horrified that Naruto might be dead, with the disappearance of the energy shield, seeming to verify it. Though after a few moments, the 3 androids were shocked as the smoke began clearing, revealing Naruto's body starting to regenerate. With the shield dropping, as Naruto fell to his knees, panting. Seeing this, Lazuli broke free from Lapis and Jibo, running over and hugging Naruto tightly. He thought I weird. Lazuli cried, having been terrified that he might have died, as Naruto smiled, hugged her comfortingly. Can't kill me that easily, Naruto said as Jibo and Lapis walked over to them. Congratulations, Naruto, you were able to best Cell and survive an explosion powerful enough to destroy the planet, Jibo said. Thanks for getting us out of that thing. And if you hurt my sister, I will find a way to kill you, Lapis said, with Lazuli socking him in the stomach without letting go of Naruto. Don't forget I'm the older twin and can take care of myself, Lazuli said, with Lapis smirking. I know, but it's my job, Lapis stated, wanting to at least look cool by doing the whole protective brother act. Well, you don't have to worry, I won't let anything happen to her, Naruto said, knowing he'll do everything he can to protect Lazuli. His words made the twins smile, before all of them froze, as a sudden voice spoke. Like I've said before, it's adorable. That shouldn't be possible, Jibo said, his eyes wide open, knowing that the blast should have killed him. It can't be, Lapis said, not recognizing the voice, but had a feeling he knew who it was. He's still alive, Lazuli said in disbelief. Looking, the 4 androids saw the smoke fade, revealing Cell, back in his perfect form, only now possessing an aura similar to Naruto's, when he transformed into a Super Saiyan 2. How are you alive? Naruto demanded, while moving in front of Lazuli and Lapis as Cell smirked while looking over his body. My regeneration is on the same level as yours, 22, minus the immortality, of course. As long as my core remains intact, even if my entire body is destroyed, I will always return. And it seems my body recorded my perfect form, and regenerated back to it, as it's now my strongest form. But I feel even stronger, quite similar to that other form you unlocked as well. So, I suppose, if we're to continue the trend of naming our transformations, let's call this Super Perfect Cell. Cell said, while smirking as he crossed his arms as the four got ready for a fight. Oh no, need for that, I have no desire to fight you all, at least not yet. You see, this little experience has given me an epiphany. How can I be considered the perfect being if no one knows who I am, and how can I have perfect strength when you unlock that new form, and perhaps possess even more, 22. So no, we won't be fighting yet, but we will. In a tournament, one so grand, it shall be remembered by all who watch it, one that shall ensure everyone will know the name, Cell A tournament where not only the strongest will be decided, but the fate of the earth, as well Cell declared. And what makes you think we'll just let get away? Naruto asked, refusing to let Cell escape. Oh, I'm sure you could fight me evenly, 22, perhaps even surpass me. But can you ensure that your friends won't get caught in the crossfire? Cell questioned, smirking, with the four scowling, but knew he was right, and stood down. See, that wasn't so hard, now was it now? I hope you all train long and hard, as you prepare yourselves, and I'll see you in 7 days. Cell said, before flying off with the androids, frowning as they watched the bio-android leave. Not a moment later, Goku appeared with his instant transmission, having just left the time chamber. With the androids being tempted to kill the Saiyan, but not because of Jiro's programming, or the lack thereof, in Naruto's case. But because Goku didn't kill the doctor when he destroyed the Red Ribbon Army, or when they first learned about the androids from Trunks. Meaning everything that's happened, in a way, was Goku's fault for choosing to wait. The only thing that stopped them was that Goku had lost people against Cell and the defective androids as well. What happened? Goku asked while looked around, having heard what happened from Trunks, but didn't see Cell anywhere. Naruto stepped forward and explained what happened, including how Cell just left and was now apparently putting together a tournament. This is bad. The Cell is really stronger than when he absorbed you two, then there's no time to waste, and we need to get stronger, a lot stronger. Would you guys help us? Goku asked while looking at the androids, knowing they all needed to work together to stop Cell. The androids exchanged glances, before nodding in agreement, since they knew they needed to work together to stop Cell. Seeing this, Goku nodded before taking a moment to look around with him, soon letting out a solemn sigh. Vegeta, why couldn't you let go of your pride, even if just for a moment? Goku thought, unable to sense Vegeta's power, knowing that while they got 3 valuable allies, in the upcoming battle against Cell, Vegeta's death was a major blow for them. With that, Goku flew off into the air towards the lookout, with the androids following behind him. Hell. Damn them all, damn 22, for sending me back here, damn the boy, for betraying me, damn Kakarot, for convincing me to help him, and those weakling. Vegeta roared, while in his grade 2 Super Saiyan form, as he stood over the incapacitated forms of Frieza, King Cold and the Ginyu Force, who decided to give him the welcoming committee, only to learn that Vegeta had long since surpassed them. Vegeta, is that you? A familiar voice said, with Vegeta looking behind him, to find his father and numerous Saiyans standing alongside him. This made Vegeta smirk, seeing that he could use this to his advantage. Yes father, it is I, you son. Having surpassed the limitations of the average Saiyan and ascended into a Super Saiyan, Vegeta exclaimed, while flaring his power to help get the point across. My son, I knew that you would be the one to one day rediscover the power of the Super Saiyan. King Vegeta said, proud and filled with pride at what his son had accomplished. But, if that's so, then why are you here? Prince Vegeta, isn't the Super Saiyan's power supposed to be invincible? A Saiyan elite asked, confused on how he was dead, if he had attained the legendary form. I had merely scratched the surface of the potential of a Super Saiyan, before being killed by a group of Saiyans that I had saved and recruited. Having taught them to unlock the power of the Super Saiyan to help remake a new, more powerful Saiyan race. Having killed me in their coup, with a mechanical abomination. An android made with the DNA of a Saiyan, who unlocked a more powerful, ascended form of a Super Saiyan, Vegeta exclaimed, while painting himself as the victim, while Kakarot, Android 22 and the Z Fighters were made into the bad guys. Which worked, as the numerous Saiyan roared in anger and rage, cursing these traitors for taking advantage of their prince's kindness. But we won't let such a slight go unpunished. Now will we join me, my fellow Saiyans, elites, mid-class and low-class alike. I will teach you the secret of becoming Super Saiyans as well, and once we've bid our time, and built our strength, we will overthrow the dread ogre, that felt he had the right to judge us together. We will take over the afterlife. Then return to world of the living, where we will deal with traitors and remind the universe the power of the Saiyans. Vegeta roared, with all the Saiyans in hell roaring and cheering for their prince. Then, it is my honor to pass on the title of king, to you, my son. All hail, King Vegeta, the fourth exclaimed the now retired King Vegeta, as the Saiyans cheered for their new king, as Vegeta looked down at them, with a smirk. Perfect, I now have the Saiyans united under me, and soon, I will have an army of Super Saiyans under my command. Maybe I can now find a pure-blooded Saiyan woman to sire a proper heir with. Rather than that disgrace, who was born when I allowed my Saiyan blood to be muddied by that Earth woman's genes. Vegeta thought to himself, planning to have Trunks and Bulma be among the first to suffer his wrath. Now realizing that while humans and Saiyans are genetically compatible, to the point of producing offspring with great potential. In terms of personality and overall nature, they are vastly inferior. Thanks to their human side hindering their Saiyan instincts, making them more passive and less willing to fight a worthy battle. As seen with that bastard, who he refuses to acknowledge as his son when he interfered in letting Cell absorb that female android. Which, in his mind, was what resulted in his death. Though despite what Vegeta thought, not everyone was pleased with him now ruling the Saiyan race. With these individuals being Raditz, Nappa, Giant and Bardock's old team, as they glared at the prince. I can't believe they're following that traitor, just because he became a Super Saiyan, and painted himself as the victim. I bet that it was Kakarot who became a Super Saiyan, first. With them probably killing him, when they realized how much of a flight risk the bastard is. Nappa said, refusing to believe a word of his murderer. Yeah, but unfortunately, Vegeta has the others eating out the palm of his hands now. Raditz said, knowing that there was nothing they could do at the moment. What should we do? Tori Jine asked her husband's former teammate and best friend. For now, we can't do anything. Not when there are numerous Saiyans, with plenty of them having much higher power levels than us. And that's not counting that Vegeta is now a Super Saiyan. Tor said, knowing that at the moment, they are both vastly outnumbered and outmatched. Maybe we should infiltrate their ranks at the moment. That way, we can acquire the power of the Super Saiyan ourselves, and wait for the right time to stop Vegeta. Fasha said, knowing that might be their best bet in stopping the newly coronated Saiyan King. As much as I hate the idea of working for Vegeta again, even if it's just as a ruse. We don't really have a choice now, do we? Nappa muttered, as the others nodded in agreement, not liking the idea themselves, before they flew off to join their fellow Saiyans. It didn't take long, before Goku and the androids arrived at the lookout, with the others fighters tensing up at seeing the androids. Guys, don't worry, they're not here to fight. They're here to help us against Cell, who's now become even stronger. Goku said, before he began telling them everything that Naruto told him, from Cell's new form and his plans of hosting a tournament, to decide the fate of the world. But this news not helping everyone's already low moods, since they now had to deal with Cell being even more powerful, and having to worry about beating him in a tournament. I'll tell my mom to keep an eye on the news, for when Cell makes his announcement. Trunks said, figuring from what he's heard of Cell's personality and his plans, he'll make some grand announcement of what he's doing to the entire world. I'll call Mom, so she can do the same. Gohan added with Goku nodding at them both. Good, we need to make sure we know when, and where Cell will hold this tournament. And I'll call Rashi, to do the same, as well. Goku said, before going to do just that. Game House. My eyes, I understand Goku will be sure to keep our eyes on the noose of course, and you stay safe, you hear? Rashi said, nodding as he hung up the phone. The turtle hermit then looked behind him, and sighed, as he saw Chiaotzu and Pure sitting on the couch, with downcast expressions. Both of them having been saddened and depressed, when Chiaotzu and the turtle hermit sensed Yamcha and Tien die, while knowing this time could very likely be permanent. Given the Dragon Balls have now turned to stone, and them having no idea of where New Namek is, it was now a real possibility, that if any of them die, they wouldn't be able to come back. And I doubt this news will help them. Rashi thought, knowing they wouldn't be happy to learn Tien and Yamcha died for nothing, with Vegeta's actions leading to let Cell attain his perfect form. Now all they could do, is hope that the others will grow strong enough to defeat Cell. The lookout. Finishing his phone call, Goku looked at everyone, glad that they were all gathered. Okay, originally, I was hoping that after our time in the time chamber, we'd be strong enough to defeat Cell. But things have changes, he's even stronger than when he had 17 and 18, it's even likely he'll train in his new power, making him even stronger. So, we'll be going back in the time chamber to get more training done. Goku said, knowing they needed to get even stronger if they wanted to have a chance against Cell's super perfect form. The new pairs will be me and 22, I still have 11 months to use in the chamber from when I was a kid, and after the year inside with Gohan. After that, it'll be Piccolo and 17 going inside, then Trunks and Gohan, then 22 and 18. Goku said, knowing this way, at least 2 of them would be able to go into the time chamber one more time, if it was needed. Okay. My mother is also coming here with her portable workshop, so she can work on the androids and make any repairs or upgrades that they might need. Trunks said, having filled Bulma in on what's happening, including what his father did and what happened to him. Thinking about his father made Trunks look down, getting everyone's attention and knew the reason for it. Given Trunks spent his entire life wanting to meet his father, to earn his love and respect, to show him how strong he was. And yet, after seeing how he was willing to just discard Krillin's, Yamcha's and Tien's sacrifices, by letting Cell absorb 18, just so he could get a challenge. and ignoring the threat Cell would become if he reached his full power, with Cell now being even stronger than he originally was. Trunks, I know you're upset by what Vegeta did, and you have every right to be. But don't let it get to you. Vegeta made his choices and had to pay the price, just like you can make your own choices to be better than him. Use this experience as a lesson, to never lose sight of what's in front of you, and always push yourself to be better. Goku said with Trunks looking up at the older Saiyan. That's right. And besides, you're already pretty strong, Trunks. Look at how easily you took down Frieza and his father. Gohan added, with Trunks looking at the younger counterpart of his mentor, touched at his praise. Hey Bright Eyes, we know you don't like us, but here's some advice. Deadbeat parents are overrated. Lapis said, with Lazuli nodding in agreement with her brother. Yeah, if they want to be full of themselves, or are just straight up S, then forget them. Lazuli said, since she and her brother had their own experience with terrible parents. Trunks looked at the androids, surprised that they are offering him support even when he was fully intending to kill them when he first came to this time. It made the half-Saiyan realize that these androids really were different from the ones he knew. Right? Trunks said, nodding at all their words, knowing they were right, and that he can be better than his father was, and remember him as the man he heard about from his mother and Gohan, not as the bitter reality he saw. Alright. Let's go, Naruto. Goku said, motioning the Saiyan android to follow him to the time chamber, having learned the androids' names on the fly. Here. Naruto, Gohan asked, confused at the name. That's the name he chose, just like 16 chose the name Jibo. And our names are Lapis and Lazuli. Lazuli answered, surprising the others that the androids had names, but nodded in understanding. Naruto followed Goku to the time chamber, being surprised when he saw the vast empty void, with the only color being in the building they entered into. Yeah, it takes a while to get used to, but it's really useful for training. Just don't go in alone, since being in here alone could drive someone mad. Goku warned, with Naruto nodding as he looked around, not seeing any end to the chamber. Okay, so what's the plan for training? Naruto asked, wondering what they'll be working on as Goku walked a few feet away and stood across from him. First, we'll be working on making you into an actual martial artist, so you can fight for real. Goku said with Naruto frowning in annoyance at this. I can already fight. Naruto said, crossing his arms, while Goku shook his head. You know how to fight, that doesn't mean you can fight. Jiro may have programmed you to know how to do several forms of fighting, but that doesn't mean you can use them correctly. Just because you know how to do something, doesn't mean you can do it. From what I've heard from the others, you usually rush against any opponents while taking advantage of your regeneration, since you can die, and can gain more Zenkai boosts. But you can still be overwhelmed, or tired out. So, well, you know how to fight, you can't fight someone who's had years of training and experience, who is equal to you, if not stronger than you. We'll be working on you actually learning to use the fighting styles you were uploaded with, so you can fight. Goku explained, knowing there's a difference between knowing how to do something, and actually being able to do it. He could say he knew how to drive a car, but that doesn't mean he'd be able to actually drive one. Naruto frowned at this, Goku's words being a blow to his pride, but had to admit he was right. All the fights he's been in, he only won them thanks to him using his immortality and Zenkai boosts to overpower his opponents. He didn't actually win through skill, but just sheer force. Okay, what else? Naruto asked. Outside of martial arts training, we'll also work on helping you master your Super Saiyan transformations. Gohan and I were able to succeed in mastering Super Saiyan to the point he could stay in them for days, without feeling tired, along with being stronger than when it's first awakened. I also got a glimpse of that other form you awakened, I guess that'd be called Super Saiyan 2, going beyond the regular Super Saiyan. And while it's definitely powerful, you don't seem to be in full control of yourself, and ended up toying with Cell. That could be bad as it'd give an opponent time to make a counterattack you wouldn't expect, if you're being controlled by your own power. Goku said, with Naruto nodding, since he had felt stronger than ever when he went into Super Saiyan 2, that he could do anything and wanted to simply make Cell suffer before killing him. That's the main parts we'll be focusing on. For now, let's spar to see what you know so far. Also, don't hold back, with Cell's new power, I need to be pushed even further, also, and hopefully awaken Super Saiyan 2 as well. Said Goku, getting into his stance, before powering up to full power Super Saiyan. Alright, ready whenever you are. Naruto replied, getting into his own stance, and transforming as well. For a moment, the two Saiyans stood across from each other, before with a shout, they charged each other. Later the lookout. Several hours had passed, since Naruto and Goku went into the time chamber, with the others sitting outside, on the lookout. Most of them waiting for either their turn in the chamber, or to get any news on Cell, and what he was planning. Everyone then looked up, when a Capsule Corporation plane landed on the lookout, with Bulma and baby Trunks stepping out. Trunks, Bulma said, smiling at her future son, with Trunks getting up, before walking over to his mother and baby self. Hey, Mom. Did you learn anything about what Cell is planning? Trunks asked with Bulma nodding in confirmation. Yeah, he made a big announcement on the news for his tournament calling it the Cell Games. He's welcoming any challengers to face him in any Inen matches, and that if he wins, he'll leave Earth after blowing it up. Bulma explained, making everyone's eyes widen at this. Well, the bug man certainly enjoys showboating, doesn't he? Lapis stated, causing Bulma's attention to turn towards the androids, with this being the first time she's seen them. So, those are the androids. I thought you said there were 4. Bulma said, while looking at her son, with Trunks nodding. There are, the 4th is in the time chamber with Goku. But they should be out in a few more, Trunks said, only to stop, as his eyes widened in shock, when he felt 2 giant Kai signatures appear in the lookout, while the others, who could sense Kai, were also shocked. Looking, everyone saw Goku exiting the time chamber, having used up his remaining months inside, with his golden aura flaring around him with bioelectricity sparking across his body, showing that he had succeeded in ascending to Super Saiyan 2. Naruto followed Goku out, saving up his remaining month for when he enters again. His own aura also flaring up, though being more controlled than when he initially awakened it, along with being in control of himself. Wow. Gohan muttered, shocked at just how much more powerful his father was now, compared to when they came out of the chamber. Piccolo could only nod in agreement with his students, amazed at the increase in power. Is she? Naruto asked, looking at Bulma while raising a brow at baby Trunks in her arms, causing the older Trunks to scratch the back of his head. Oh right. Mom, this is Android 22, or Naruto, as he's been renamed. This is my mother, or at least a past version of her. Trunks introduced. Oh? Said Naruto, realizing that the baby was Trunks' younger counterpart, meaning he was also Vegeta's son. So, you the one who killed Vegeta? Bulma stated, seeing the one who killed her son's father. Yeah. And I doubt it means much, but I'm sorry I killed your husband, and taking away your son's father. But I'm also not sorry for killing the man himself, because of what he did. Naruto said, feeling regret at robbing a child of their father before they could even know him, but he also wouldn't be torn up about it, not after what Vegeta did. It's fine, Trunks told me what happened and I can understand why you did it. Also, Vegeta and I weren't married. We weren't even together, actually. The night that resulted in Trunks was a result of stress and sexual tension between us. Bulma replied, forgiving Naruto, and knowing he had killed Vegeta in revenge for letting Cell absorb the other androids. While part of Bulma was saddened at losing the chance to see what could have been between her and Vegeta, along with baby Trunks losing out on the chance to meet his father. She also wasn't going to fault the one who killed him, since the Saiyan Prince brought it upon himself. Plus, given what Trunks told me he did, that might be for the best. Bulma thought, not wanting her son to be exposed to that kind of hatred, anger and pride. Naruto just nodded slowly, before taking notice of baby Trunks looking at him, with the baby then reaching an arm out towards him, making Bulma smile. I think he wants you to hold him, Bulma said, with Naruto looking unsure at that idea. I'm not sure that's the best idea, Naruto said, trailing off only for Bulma to hold Trunks out for him with the baby waving his arms at him, with a curious look on his face. Awkwardly, the Saiyan android grabbed the baby, and held him in his arms, with baby Trunks looking at him, curiously, poking Naruto's whisker marks, before laughing, making the Saiyan android smile slightly. The sight making the others smile as well. He's really good with kids, Lazuli thought, while smiling softly at the scene. You say one word and I'll turn you into my twin sister, Lazuli said, not even looking at her brother to know he was smirking, and was about to say something. Which was true, until Lazuli spoke, and Lapis immediately went silent, knowing she'd go through with her threat. Naruto handed baby Trunks back to Bulma, as Piccolo and Lapis entered the time chamber, for their own training. So, Trunks said, your name is Naruto, do you all have names? Now Bulma asked, as she began setting up her equipment, to look the androids over. Yeah, I'm Lazuli, and my brother is Lapis. Well, the big guy here is Jibo, Lazuli replied, with Bulma nodding at the names. Alright then. If you could get on the table, Naruto, we can get started, Bulma said, after she finished setting up her workshop. Why do I even need to be looked at? I can't die, and can regenerate from any injuries I receive, so I don't need to be given a checkup, Naruto said, doubting he needed any repairs or upgrades, since his immortality would heal any injuries, and he's able to get a Zenkai boost from any fatal injuries he receives. How about the fact that Jiro could have put any surprises inside you, whether it was something to shut you down, kill or incapacitate you, if you ever went rogue? Lazuli stated, not putting it past Jiro to have done something like that, to make sure he could control Naruto. Again, I can't die, and Jiro's dead now, so any failsafes that he might have put in me are useless now, Naruto replied, crossing his arms stubbornly, only to reel back when Bulma poked his chest. Okay, smart guy, how about this Cell was able to find a way to track you, by making something from those other androids you fought, so he could likely find a way to access these failsafes and shut you down, lowering our chances of beating him. He also can't die either, and can get stronger from fatal injuries, as well. And lastly, even without the Dragon Balls, you'll soon learn that not even death can stop someone. Now then, either get on the table or I'll have Lazuli hold you down while I work. Your choice, Whiskers. Bulma said, before putting her hands on her hips, while giving Naruto a look, as if daring him to contradict her. Naruto looked at Bulma with wide eyes, before looking at Lazuli for help, only to see her smirking at him. Knowing he wouldn't get any help, Naruto grumbled to himself, and got on the table. Though internally, he was impressed at Bulma's lack of fear at his strength and power, along with her ability to make him do what she said. Out of curiosity, how did you get involved in all this? Naruto asked, motioning to everything around them. You mean going on crazy adventures, involving aliens, demons, and magic wishing granting balls? Bulma asked as she started looking over Naruto's mechanical parts, with the android Saiyan nodding. I'm actually curious about that too. How do you even meet these guys? Lazuli asked, not having much information on Goku and his friends, outside of what Jiro uploaded to her and her brother, that had helped them kill them. Oh? Well, that's actually kind of embarrassing. Bulma said, smiling nervously while remembering how she first met Goku, and the reason for it, leading to many crazy adventures. It can't be that bad. Naruto said, doubting it's as bad as Bulma thought it was. Okay. It started when I stumbled onto the 2-star Dragon Ball in my basement, before making the Dragon Radar to locate the other 6. My original wish was to have a lifetime supply of strawberries before I changed it to having a perfect boyfriend instead. Bulma said, with Naruto and Lazuli looking at her with wide eyes. You wanted to collect the Dragon Ball, still wish for a lifetime supply of strawberries, but then decided to wish for a boyfriend instead? Lazuli asked, slowly, processing what she just heard. I was 16, and just discovered the existence of actual magic items that could grant any wish, Bulma said in her defense while blushing in embarrassment. Okay, what happened next? Naruto asked, interested to hear about the early adventures of his fighters. Bulma began telling the 2 androids about the adventures she went on, with Goku, Krillin and Yamcha, going against Pilaf Gang and Red Ribbon Army, fighting in the World Martial Arts tournaments, meeting Tien, when he was an enemy in the Crane School, the battle against evil Demon King Piccolo, and Goku defeating Piccolo, when he was still their enemy. With Naruto and Lazuli listening, enthralled by the story, and everything they went through. While she was doing that, Bulma continued working on Naruto, taking notice that some of his cybernetics were damaged, before removing them, and replacing them with more up-to-date technology. Okay, that should do it. Your turn, Lazuli. Bulma said, having finished looking Naruto over as the 2 androids switched spaces, with Lazuli now lying down with Bulma attaching some wires to her head. First, we're getting rid of something easy. I'll remove the programs that are preventing you from sensing Kai, so this way, you'll be less likely to be caught unaware. All you'll have to do is learn how to sense it. Bulma said with Lazuli nodding, thankful that she'll be able to sense her allies and where enemies are coming from now. Bulma then looked up when Jibo walked over to them. Oh, Jibo. I actually just started on Lazuli, so it'll be a while before it's your turn, said Bulma, with Jibo nodding his head. That's fine. I actually wanted to ask if you could work on me last, after Lapis comes out of the time chamber. Since I will not be using the chamber, it'd be better to wait until the others are done. Jibo said since he's a purely mechanical android, he wouldn't get stronger from training. Alright, if you want. Bulma replied, shrugging, with Jibo nodding, before going back to where he was sitting. After Bulma removed the programs, while repairing and upgrading the androids, Lazuli looked at Naruto. Her mind drifting back to when he freed her and her brother from Cell, and what he said and did. So, Naruto, about before, when you freed Yusin, what you said? Lazuli trailed off, not sure how to bring it up, and if it was just a heat of the moment thing. I meant it. Naruto said, with Lazuli looking at him in surprise. You meant it? Lazuli asked, with Naruto nodding. Yes. Well, I may not know everything about the world or about how to act. One thing I do know, is that I care about you, Lazuli, and I'll do everything I can to protect you. Naruto said, with Lazuli looking at him with wide eyes, before smiling at him. Good, because after we take care of the bug man, you're taking me out on a date. Lazuli said while smirking at Naruto. Okay, anywhere you want to go. Naruto replied, though internally, he was nervous since he wasn't sure how to act on a date, or what he was supposed to do. If you two are dating, then I could give you some recommendations on where to go and what to do. Bulma offered, smiling while wanting to play matchmaker and help them get together as a couple. Surprised at the offer, but also thankful, Naruto and Lazuli nodded at the brunette. Later. Once Bulma had finished working on Lazuli, along with taking another look at Naruto, for anything she might have missed, everyone waited, until finally Piccolo and Lapis exited the time chamber. With it now being Trunks and Gohan's turn to enter the chamber, again. With the future half-Saiyan being excited at getting to train with Gohan again, like he did in his time. Even if it's not the same version, it was still Gohan, and Trunks was determined to help his mentor, like how he helped him. So, did I miss anything? Lapis asked, while laying down on the table, with Bulma beginning her repairs and upgrades for him, as well. Nothing much. Though it looks like some idiot is actually going to challenge Cell in the tournament. Look, he's even having a press conference. Lazuli said, motioning to the TV that was set up, with Lapis turning his head, only to raise a brow. "You sure that's not a homeless man who takes part in bum fights?" Lapis asked, not impressed at this Sakal challenger. "Apparently, this guy's the new world martial arts champion. His name's Hercule Satan," Naruto said, also not impressed with Mr. Satan as he openly challenged Cell and said he'd crush him like a bug. Well, at least they'd have something entertaining to watch before fighting Cell. Though the group frowned when suddenly, the press conference was cut off. "Ha, I wonder what happened," Goku muttered, confused at the sudden interruption, only to tense alongside Naruto and Piccolo, as they looked in the direction of where the press conference was taking place. "What's happening?" Bulma asked, worried about what was happening, while knowing they sensed that something wrong. "That crowd, their energy's vanishing. Cell is absorbing them," Piccolo said, realizing what was happening. Everyone's eyes whitened at that, before instantly, Naruto, Piccolo and Goku shot off towards the press conference, to hopefully stop Cell. Press conference. Though what these fighters didn't know, was that it wasn't Perfect Cell, but Imperfect Cell, that had attacked the press conference. Having heard about it, when he drank some people, who were unfortunate enough to stumble upon him, and learn just how many people would be there. Along with learning about Mr. Satan challenging his counterpart, making Imperfect Cell eager to drink a supposedly powerful fighter, like that. So, once he arrived, Imperfect Cell had used his telekinesis to destroy the recording and audio equipment, before he began drinking everyone present. With him starting with Mr. Satan, not wanting to risk him stopping him. Only for Imperfect Cell to be disappointed, when he only received a small power boost from Mr. Satan, rather than a bigger one. Showing he was just a normal human, who hadn't even accessed his Kai. "Oh well, I still had more than enough power from the rest of these fools. Besides, I probably did the other me a favor by getting rid of that idiot, save him the embarrassment of dealing with him himself." Imperfect Cell thought as he looked around the area for anyone else to absorb. Pausing for a moment, Imperfect Cell sniffed the air, before his head snapped towards a corner, making him chuckle sinisterly. "Peekaboo, I found you," Imperfect Cell said, approaching the corner, with his tail raised, only to freeze, and look behind him. "Damn it," thought Imperfect Cell, sensing Goku and Piccolo flying towards his location, with Naruto most likely being with them, as well, having likely realized that something was wrong. Knowing that he wasn't ready to face them, and not wanting his existence revealed just yet, Imperfect Cell suppressed his power, and quickly made his escape. Not long after, the trio arrived, only to mentally curse, after seeing that they were too late, as they looked at all the scattered clothing of Cell's victims. "I don't understand. Cell already has what he wants, his perfect form, why would he keep absorbing people?" Goku asked, confused and angry that even more people are dead now, with no way to bring them back. "The same reason Frieza blew up so many planets, because he could," Piccolo said while scowling. Naruto frowned, as he looked around, before looking to the same corner Imperfect Cell had been approaching, earlier. Getting Piccolo and Goku's attention, Naruto pointed to the corner, and motioned them to be quiet. The two nodding, as the Saiyan android went to the corner. Once he reached it, Naruto peeked around, only to catch a rock that was thrown at his head. Looking at who threw it, Naruto gained a downcast expression, when he saw it was a young girl, with long black hair, pale skin, and blue eyes, hiding in a doorframe. With her also shaking, and looking at him fearfully. "Hey, it's alright, I'm not gonna hurt you," Naruto said softly, while kneeling down to her level. "Whoa, are you?" the girl asked. "My name's Naruto." "What's your name?" asked Naruto, with the girl stepping out slightly, from her hiding spot. "Videl. Videl Satan," Videl answered. "Mr. Satan's daughter." Naruto thought, saddened that she likely saw her father being absorbed by Cell. "It's nice to meet you, Videl. But, would you be able to tell me what happened here?" Naruto asked, while not wanting to have her relive such a traumatic event. He also wanted to see if she saw anything, or heard anything that Cell might have said, for why he did this. "Don't remember much. My dad was giving his speech when all the chimeras exploded." Then Videl stuttered, as she shook in fear, with tears starting to trail down her face, as Naruto put a hand on her shoulder. "The giant green bug man showed up," Naruto said, with Videl nodding shakily, remembering how Imperfect Cell appeared and began absorbing everyone while she ran and hid out of fear of the same happening to her. "I'm sorry, we couldn't get here sooner, to stop him. But if it's alright with you, Videl, I can get you away from here, just in case he comes back." "Is that alright?" Naruto asked, with Videl nodding quickly, not wanting to be here, in case Cell returned. Stepping out of her hiding spot, Videl clung onto Naruto, as he guided her out. With Goku and Piccolo frowning sadly when they saw that the only survivor was a young girl, who looked to be about the same age as Gohan. "This is Videl, Mr. Satan's daughter. Cell was here," Naruto said, with the Saiyan and Imikian clenching their fists. "I'll go find Cell, and get answers as to why he did this." "Piccolo, can you go tell the others what happened?" Goku asked, with Piccolo nodding, before flying back to the lookout. "I'll get Videl out of here, and try to help her get her mind off of what happened," Naruto said, with Goku nodding, before flying off as well to find Cell. Looking at Videl, Naruto put a hand on her head, making the little girl look up at him. "Come on, let's get out of here," Naruto said while picking Videl up. Then to the girl's shock, they flew up into the air. How are we flying? Vidal asked, amazed at what was happening. We're flying with Kai, an energy that everyone has within them, answered Naruto. Even me? Vidal asked while looking down at the surface, watching as they flew past everything. Even you? Naruto replied, much to Vidal's amazement. Are you a fighter? Naruto Vidal asked, with Naruto nodding. Yeah, I am. I have been, my entire life. What about you, Vidal? Do you like martial arts? Asked Naruto, with Vidal nodding with a smile. Yeah. My dad taught me, and I won the junior divisions of the 24th World Martial Arts Tournament. Vidal said, with Naruto smiling at her. Wow, you must be pretty strong then. If you want, I could show you some things I know, and maybe one day, you'll win the actual tournament. Naruto said with Vidal's smile widening at the chance to learn more about martial arts. Later, Naruto spent the rest of the day with Vidal, helping her improve her martial arts training, and getting to know the young girl. Doing everything he could to help take her mind off of what happened, and everything she saw. Eventually though, they returned to the lookout, with Naruto learning that during that time, Trunks and Gohan had come out of the time chamber. With both Goku and Gohan heading home, since their time in the chamber was used up now, and all they could do was rest and keep using the time they had to make sure they were ready. Afterwards, Naruto asked Bulma to look after Vidal, while he and Lazuli took their turn in the time chamber, together. Along with convincing Piccolo, Lapis, Jibo and Trunks to show her a few things, since she's interested in and has a talent for martial arts. With that taken care of, Naruto and Lazuli entered the time chamber to begin their own year of training, together. Thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Don't forget to support Android 22 up for adoption.